what it is you really do.
Every motherfucking time. Yo, 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 yo. I'm your host with the motherfucking most, Chill Motherfucking Murray. You are now tuned to Live from the Spot. Shout out to everybody tuning in, not doing it. Now you're doing how we rock. Hey, yo, what's going on, everybody? Happy Monday evening. DJ Big Gang, what's going on? Malcolm Bear, what's going on? King Osmond, what's going on? I'm excited tonight. I don't know why. I'm excited tonight. I got some new energy. And when I go live like this spontaneous, it's because I got some shit. I done came up on some shit this evening. I tell you that much. Let me know if I'm good out there vocally. All right, so you guys saw the cover. We're not gonna be getting to a lot of the bullshit that's going on right now. I was gonna go over the J. Cole interview. Also, there were some things with Larry Johnson and Jay-Z. I'm gonna save that for tomorrow. Because what I found this evening. First of all, shout out to Melanie King. Let me bring my ass on camera. Shout out to Melanie King. Because I came across her channel earlier. And put you on game with that as well. Because it's very important we do that. Very important we share the knowledge here as well. Also, let me properly, introduce things, of course. So what you guys just heard is the new intro to the pod. That is going to be the official intro. That way I don't get no more goddamn copyrights. I don't get no more, hey, this is already on YouTube. I don't get no more strikes, no demonetization, none of that shit. So that is an original record. It just happened to be laying around SoundCloud. I was like, oh shit, I still got this. I found a bunch of my old shit. So I was like, all right, you know what? This fits the vibe of the pod. This fits the vibe of me. It's a great anthem for Chill Murray. So I said, all right, perfect. Let's set this for the live from the spot intro. That way, like I said, I don't get in trouble no more. no more. Leave me alone, YouTube. Leave me alone. Unless you got something for me. Anyway, put y'all on game once again, real quick. So I wanted to show y'all this channel. No, we're not doing that. We're doing no ads. Just want to show y'all her channel real quick. Miss Melanie King. Pretty much does the same thing I do. On a bigger scale, I would say, though. She has 1 million subscribers. So definitely, if you guys want to check her out, please do. Like I said, she goes over a lot of the same stuff that we do. And I'm going to be checking out a couple of things that came across on her channel as well. The first thing I want to go over is the cover that you guys saw, which is a building in Astana. It's called the Palace of Peace and Reconciliation in Astana. It's in the country of Kazakhstan. That's how you pronounce it, Kazakhstan. It's in Central Asia. It's a pyramid designed by Norman Foster to host triennial congresses of world and traditional religions, while conspiracy theories link its 200-seat apex chamber to the 200 fallen angels, the Watchers, in the Book of Enoch. The building is officially a venue for promoting religious harmony currently. This is the structure opened in 2006, a 77-meter high glass and granite pyramid, sometimes called the Pyramid of Peace and Accord. Serves as a center for religious understanding and the renunciation of violence. The apex room on the top of the pyramid is a circular meeting room designed for 200 delegates from various religions. Often, look what this says, often illuminated by stained glass. Conspiracy symbolic interpretation. Get this. Certain theories often discussed online link the 200 seats in the peak to the 200 fallen angels, known as the Watchers, who, according to the Book of Enoch, descended to Earth, which some interpret as a New World Order symbolic site. pretty much we have found the what I thought was going to be in the Ozarks in Alabama, where they were, and I think that's where the elites that are here in the U.S. So we're gonna break that down as well too. This has gotten a little bit easier for me to understand recently because I'm starting to realize that it's not just the draconian reptilians here; it's other species of alien here. It's definitely other species, and I won't look up all of them one day. I know my brother King Ozma has helped. We also build on that information as well. We definitely got to go over that here one day, the different species that there are, because we might not have time today to go over all the different species. But I think there are different species that are already here. I think Putin and Russia have their own elitist of species. I think, like I said, there is an Illuminati blood order for sure. But I think the Illuminati blood order is only running over here in the U.S. It's not necessarily running the entire world, because if that was the case, we wouldn't have the world wars that have to happen in order to actually profit and disperse more money, or should I say, make it look like we need to get more money built up for things and rebuild things, make chaos out of order, and that certain thing, right? So I'm saying to myself, okay, so being that there are different species around, right, that might be why everybody's coming to a point of the great reset right now. And you got Putin saying, oh, the devil worshiping and worshiping of Satan is done for the West, talking about us. Then you have China feeling how they do. You have Australia. They just had a red sky. Okay, that's supposed to be an event that does happen every so often as well, but it's the timing of it happening this year that has a certain significance to it. Like I said, I'm definitely confirmed now that there are different species of these aliens that are around here for sure. And what a lot of them are scared of is what's happening with this pyramid. It's going to be, I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but the way it's sounding is we are upon the time of the 200 fallen angels, or at least one or two of them are definitely already here. If you know what I mean. I think it's going to come to a time where they're going to take their seating. And, you know, I want to be prepared on the information on that as much as I can. So it's a couple of TikToks and Instagram clips that I came across that I definitely want to look at, as well as some readings here. So I want to look at this first one here. Yeah, this guy here. This guy here has been on some shit. He's been on some shit. Okay. So let me see. Should I look at this one first? I guess we'll look at this one first.
If I could take you to a place where the 200 fallen angels built a boardroom for them to all meet, it would have to be at the top of a finished pyramid, at the end of a pointed sword, with a phoenix right there into the front yard. And if you clicked inside of it, it would have a round table where they could all meet together, all 200 of them. And if you go right inside the Palace of Peace and Reconciliation, I'm going to show you their boardroom. All 200 delegates meet right here in the top of this finished pyramid. It's one of the only finished pyramids I've ever seen in my life. And if you click on that little mark right there, it's going to take us down inside that hole. And that's what's underneath the Palace of the Peace and Reconciliation, where the 200 fallen angels meet. That sun shines right through the middle of that table that holds 200 people, and it goes all the way down to the middle of the floor in the basement, which is the amphitheater, and that's where all the people can meet. It says 200 seats for the world's religious meetings. Chapter 3 in Enoch 1 tells you that there were 200 fallen angels that descended in that day, and right there it tells you the names of those people, and they were the leaders of 10. I've never heard of anybody even mention this place or a Christian telling me that they went there. Okay, click on the U.S. Embassy in Astana and then zoom down right down the street and you'll see that portal right. Think if I could take you to a place where the 200...
Okay, so there's another video about that. Yeah, there's actually a portal that's there as well. There's this right here. This is the portal that everybody's been talking about that's there. Like, it's just there in plain sight, too. Like, not even hiding. See if we can check out another one here. Okay, this is a much better one, I
$50
think.
billion is how much money we spent building a pyramid and a city on the other side of the planet. It's called Astana, Kazakhstan. And the pyramid that we built is in the middle of it, right in the heart of the city. It houses 200 delegates, and ironically, there are 200 fallen angels. But if you click inside that building, you can go to the boardroom, which has a round table where all 200 delegates get to meet. And if you disagree with them, there's a hole right there in the middle of the table, and you can see all the way down to the floor of reconciliation. And I guess that's the hole of peace. And that's next on the trumpet. The United States were some of the first people to even invest their money there. This is just one of many buildings they built. Circular 200-seat chamber for world religion meetings. Chapter 3 of the Book of Enoch, Fallen Angels, tells you all about the 200 angels that descended onto Mount Hermon. Mount Hermon is where that happened. And if you go to the Book of Enoch, you can see that those 20 names that it mentioned right underneath that verse, they were leaders of tens. So there were 200 people that descended right here on $50 billion. That verse, they were leaders of tens. So there were 200. And if you go to the Book of Enoch, you can see that those 20 names that it mentioned right underneath that verse.
You want to see something now? Lebanon, Israel, Jordan. Wow. Okay. All right. Wait a minute. There's Nazareth right there. Oh, wow. Wait a minute. So Jerusalem is right. Wait a second. 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 Damascus is right. Yo, this. All right. This is getting creepy. All right. Because I didn't see the full video, so I want to know what he's gonna say. All right. Oh wait, was that it? The names of the watchers. Okay, that's what I was looking for. The names of the watchers. All right. So according to the Book of Enoch, exactly 200 watchers fell to earth to take human wives. It names 20 of these, explaining that each one was a leader in a group of 10. In his book From the Ashes of Angels, Andrew Collins names a few others, and other reference works corroborate some of the names given in these sources, sometimes with alternate spellings. Through these various sources, I have collected information on what some of these named watchers taught to mankind. Where there was a variation in wording, I have included both wordings. According to Collins, there is no complete record of the names of all 200 watchers. Most of the names included in Enoch are not included in other books. All right, so let me see. So only a few of their names are there, not all of them. What is this right here? So this is about 28 of them. So you have Kokabel, Sariel, Samyaza, Azazel, Amazrak, Armors, and Moros. All right, so where's the map at? Let me move this. I kind of wanted to see if there were going to be some names there. Like if some of the places were named after it, you know what I mean? Wait, is another list right here? Angels and demons list. Oh wow. Enoch. No Lord. Oh wait, this ain't the fallen angels though, is it? Okay, here it is. So this is the angels right here. So some jobs. Oh, I guess we could just do this, right? Oh shit, that wasn't what I want to do. I didn't see what it was spelled like. So Arakiba. Just to, you know, just in case. If not, we're gonna move on to another video. Just zoomed into. Wait, no, that's all I want to do. Okay, I'll move on then.
I don't think you're ready for what I'm.
Because I want to come back to that list. I want to come back to that list of names. Definitely want to come back to that list of names.
The boardroom for the fallen angels. There's 200 fallen angels according to the book of Enoch.
Yes, this is a longer version of it. This was
descended to earth. 200 people for religious meetings can meet at the top of that pyramid.
It's the version I was trying to
That's
find.
the hole in the middle of the boardroom. That hole right there. Right down there. Over the hanging gardens. Those hanging gardens. I know. The hanging gardens of Babylon. The boardroom is over the hanging gardens in the pyramid. That's the sign on the elevator. At the top of that pyramid, right there. If you don't have wings when you go through the boardroom table, you're going to end up right there. Is over the hanging gardens in the pyramid. That's the sign on the elevator.
Looks like something out of the Blade movie. That's crazy. It almost looks like. It looks like a hand, doesn't it? It's crazy how they show you the whole structure. Or they even describe of where each person is supposed to be. And even if you look how it's designed, it's like what person would what actual human being, you know what I mean, would sit in something so thin up in the sky that high in a circle. You know what I'm saying? It just.
At the top of that pyramid.
And this is the actual city blueprint right here, which we're going to look at in a few, because the layout of this place is even described in the book of Enoch. It's
right there. If you don't have wings when you go through the boardroom table, you're going to end up right there. And they were in all 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. All about the Watchers is written in Enoch, book 1. And if you go to my link tree on my bio page, that codex that I make, it has the book of Jubilees in it, Enoch 1, the book of Jasher, the book of Gad, and the gospel of Nicodemus, the descent into the underworld. And the underworld doesn't have a lobby with a glass pyramid in it. The Knights of the Round Table, over the hanging gardens. I hope they don't hit this Jesus statue right here while they're bombing Lebanon, because Lebanon was tired. Right here in the book of Isaiah, it tells you that Lebanon shall see the glory of the Lord. Come on, you know I'm going to take you right there. All you got to do is scroll in, touch that little dude right there. Boom, bow, it all lights up. And then it's that blue dot right there on the bridge. Bam. It goes over and you scroll it, move it. 1, 2, 3. The glory of the Lord, right there.
so pretty much while all these bombings are happening, they're not for no reason right now. They're pretty much planned out to tell certain that, yo, this is getting crazy now. A lot of these bombings, I mean, we've seen it happen with the smart city developments, right? Which ironic, we're gonna look at a video about the smart city developments. It's kind of crazy how the war pretty much is in place just to have, like I said, the Great Reset happen in, different places are getting bombed, not just within the city, or should I say within our country. Different places are getting bombed over there. Like he just said, the Jesus statue, they're getting bombed because it's already written in the Bible for it to be, knocked down. This is getting wild now.
I go by Ezekiel 33:3, and that scripture says that when I see the sword fall upon the land, I blow the trumpet and warn the people, so light can follow the trumpet for more.
And that's one of the 7 trumpets of the time, trial of tribulation, in the Revelations, the trial of tribulations.
And in Jesus' name, have a blessed day.
This is the Baitarek Tower, a very odd structure located in Astana, Kazakhstan. And I have no idea what this is. But apparently you could go up top, so I went to find out. Ticket was $4. After going up this crazy elevator, I came out in the gold ball, which was super sick and had some pretty solid views of the city. But yeah, after some investigating, I found out that this was built to symbolize the 1997 capital transfer from Almaty to Astana. And it's meant to embody a folktale of the Smurg bird laying its egg in the tree of life.
The tree of, wow.
Cool.
The egg in the tree of, and it's the craziness. The kid had no idea what that even meant. Wow. The egg in the tree of life. Oh, wow.
So you think NASA landed a rover on Mars?
Hold on, where is it? Where is it? Is it this one? Yeah.
Hey, King Tut, do you know that the pyramids prove we don't live on a spinning ball? Well, if you don't agree with me, stick around. You might just change your mind. Let's first look at how old the mainstream tells us.
They
coordinated perfectly with the 7-star.
Okay, now that's other video. I got the other video with him though. I got the other one.
Welcome to.
Hold on, before we go to that. This is the long form, I think. Did I need it?
The top of a finished pyramid, at the end of a pointed sword, with a phoenix right there into the front yard. And if you clicked inside of it, it would have a round table where they could all meet together, all 200 of them. And if you go right inside the Palace of Peace and Reconciliation, I'm going to show you their boardroom. All 200 delegates meet right here in the top of this finished pyramid. It's one of the only finished pyramids I've ever seen in my life. And if you click on that little mark right there, it's going to take us down inside that hole. And that's what's underneath the Palace of the Peace and Reconciliation, where the 200 fallen angels meet. That sun shines right through the middle of that table that holds 200 people, and it goes all the way down to the middle of the floor in the basement, which is the amphitheater, and that's where all the people can meet. It says 200 seats for the world's religious meetings. Chapter 3 in Enoch 1 tells you that there were 200 fallen angels that descended in that day, and right there it tells you the names of those people, and they were the leaders of 10. I've never heard of anybody even mention this place or a Christian telling me that they went there. Okay, click on the U.S. Embassy in Astana and then zoom down right down the street and you'll see that portal right there. I thought this was super weird, but there's no pictures of it. So if you go across the street and click on that little blue dot right across the river, and then roll that thing around right there and you're going to see this, looks like a portal to me. Click on my link tree right there off of my bio page, and it'll take you to all of my printable materials. Click on the Book of Enoch right there, the Watchers, and then you can read right along with me. We can go right back to this. Click on my YouTube page, and I read it for you on YouTube, and you can follow right along with that book that you printed off. It's right there. It's about the 3rd or 4th video. The book of Ephesians tells you to put on the full armor of God, and having done all to stand, stand.
Okay, this is what I was looking for.
About to present in this video. I really don't think you're ready for what I'm about to present in this video. And it all starts in the most unlikely of places. A place they want us to think is nothing but a third world wasteland. But in reality, it's a place fit for a king. Well, maybe not a king, but definitely an angel. 200, as a matter of fact. 200 fallen angels. Top of their pyramid just happens to have a secret meeting chamber with exactly 200 perfectly aligned seats. 200 perfectly aligned seats that just perfectly matches the amount of fallen angels talked about in the book of Enoch. 200 that just almost perfectly.
Okay, so this is a better view of that map than the blueprint. All right.
Angels are currently residing. A theory claims that the city of Astana is where the fallen angels are currently residing. Astana, which by the way is an anagram for Satan, is no ordinary city. They sell it to us as just another place in the middle of nowhere, but the truth is, there's more to it. At the top of their pyramid is a secret meeting chamber with 200 seats. 200 perfectly aligned seats. 200 seats that matches the exact amount of fallen angels mentioned in the book of Enoch. Also matching the number of discovered craters. What if they're not craters, but impact sites where these celestial beings fell? And then there's Lucifer, the light bearer, and what about his torch? It's represented as global symbols standing tall in cities everywhere. But in Astana, it's next to an Easter egg, a massive one. And here's where it gets weird. Easter ties back to Ishtar, the Babylonian goddess of fertility. Eggs, fertility, rituals, it's all connected. Now there's even a structure that looks eerily like a portal. Perhaps it's a real one, or are they trying to summon something? Or worse, what have they summoned? I know how this sounds. This is just a theory, not a fact.
The crazy thing is it's similar to the Hadron Collider in Geneva, Switzerland, where they already said when they were looking for the God particle, they did summon something, but they don't know what came through.
I don't think you're ready for what I'm about to present in this video. I really don't think you're ready for what I'm about to present in this video. And it all starts in the most unlikely of places. A place they want us to think is nothing but a third world wasteland. But in reality, it's a place fit for a king. Well, maybe not a king, but definitely an angel.
Okay, it's the same
At the
one.
top of their pyramid just happened.
Just making sure that was the same one. Okay. So we ain't done looking at that yet. Yeah, these are some pictures here that were pretty crazy. So it's the singing fountain. Okay, so let me see something. There's some, like I said, some weird pictures here, but yeah, okay, that's the portal. Capitol Circus. State symbols. I feel like this is not put here for no reason. This layout, 'cause I remember I heard something about this being in the Book of Enoch. This layout.
To Kazakhstan's capital. May look like a set from a movie, but I can tell you it's definitely real. This is Astana. The scale of development here is crazy. It's shiny, bold, weirdly beautiful, and probably not what you expected when you think of Kazakhstan. In this video, I'll take you around Astana. We'll look at many of its modern, odd, and wonderful sights. And if you ever wanted to join the Illuminati, well, stay tuned, because this just might be the seat of the coming New World Order. Kazakhstan was part of the Soviet Union until its dissolution in 1991. Its first capital was in Almaty, which is about 1,000 kilometers south of here. And this was just a quiet provincial town called Akmola. Then, in 1997, Kazakhstan's first president, Nursultan Nazarbayev, moved the capital here because of Almaty's risk of seismic activity.
It's a Freemason necklace he has on.
Its proximity to the border, and its limited space for expansion. So humble Akmola was renamed Astana, which literally means capital. Regardless of the name, the city was rapidly developed with an ambitious master plan featuring futuristic and symbolic buildings designed by world-renowned architects. And people have come. Its population in 1997 was only 270,000. Now it exceeds 1.5 million. Much like the conspiracy theories surrounding Denver International Airport in the United States, some claim that Astana was built to be the future headquarters for the New World Order, a supposed global elite that will rule with a one-world government. The reasoning? Well, it was built rapidly, with massive state resources, in a remote location, with ultra-modern, symbolic architecture. So it doesn't take much digging to come across ludicrous conspiracy theories linking it to the Illuminati and even Freemasonry.
I mean, we did spend $50 billion.
Anyway, first let's kick things off with the Baytarek. Now, if you Google Astana, it's one of the first photos that will pop up. It's kind of their Eiffel Tower and one of the city's most iconic landmarks. The Kazakh word Baytarek translates to mean tall poplar, as in the tree. So the tower represents a Kazakh myth about a golden egg laid by a sacred bird in the branches of the tree of life. However, conspiracy theorists see it as a representation of the Illuminati's all-seeing eye, or even as an altar to the worship of the sun. Now, regardless, visitors can travel to the top of the tower and see views of the city from the observation deck inside its golden dome.
Hey, would you like your very own Shopify store? We are live streaming right now. If you click the link that you see below this.
Heck, if you even feel like going full Illuminati, you can even wait to put your hand on a golden.
And see, the crazy thing is, just like in the Denver airport where there's an actual headstone with a Freemason sign on it with the G and everything, and literally says New World Airport, you have this in the middle of this damn thing. Does that not look like it's made to fit a giant's hand? That does not look like it's made to fit a regular sized human's hand, does it? That looks like it is made to fit a certain angel's hand. He is meant to press it.
Triangle containing the handprint of former President Nazarbayev. Now, I didn't want to wait in the sizable line, though. Now, after you've been fully assimilated through the handprint, look out the windows and check out how orderly and planned the city is. But this also feeds into the conspiracists, who claim the cityscape was designed with all sorts of esoteric and occultist symbology. The Ak Orda Palace is the president's official residence. It looks a bit like DC meets Dubai meets conspiracists, who claim
there's a giant in the blueprint right here. So this gives me the same, like, it's crazy how this looks so similar to how DC is with the pentagram. You know how Washington DC got the pentagram in it? That's what it's giving to me. That's the vibe that the city layout is giving me. Neo's Hotel. It's crazy how they put that in there. Neo's Hotel in the Matrix. Wow, that's crazy. Just trying to look at the, okay, so the Embassy of the United. Come in hotel is crazy. Premier in Astana. Sky Beach Club. Astana Opera. Central Fountain. The Botanical Garden. Like similar to Washington, D.C. and the Pentagram, these places are not named these places just for no reason, of course. There is certain symbology behind it. I just wish I had more knowledge on more of the Asian more of the back in the day, the Indian and Asian culture of some of these names. Of course, like I said, even this one right here that's under Advocate Group. I wish I was able to understand what some of these buildings were even about. And I'm going to be doing some research on what these buildings are about that's around here. Because like I said, another thing is this doesn't even have a high population. But there is something to say about the way this place is designed and the fact that we spent $50 billion on making it out of nowhere.
The cityscape was designed with all sorts of esoteric and occultist symbology. The Ak Orda Palace is the president's official residence. It looks a bit like DC meets Dubai meets something totally Kazakh. But of course you can't go inside, and I'm guessing the New World Order is being sketched out.
And then it's crazy he even says that. It looks like DC meets Dubai. That's what I'm saying. It's giving me that DC feeling.
Inside those offices. And since the building is flanked by two massive golden towers, conspiracists liken them to the biblical pillars.
This part right here, being that this is parallel to where that portal is on the other side, on top of it's directly across from that egg and tree of life, these two look like pointers for something. They almost look like energy points, don't they? Like an energy is supposed to strike the top of that on both sides. And then the fact they're made out of solid gold like that. Like I said, certain things are not there for no reason. These two solid gold spots right here, or solid gold pillars, are not here for no reason with these pointers like this.
That flank the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem, which are also significant symbols in Freemasonry. Moving on, the conspiracists go nuts over this building. Yes, it's a giant glass pyramid, and it's called the Palace of Peace and Reconciliation. Designed by British architect Sir Norman Foster. Yes, the same person who designed the Gherkin in London, the Reichstag in Berlin, and Apple headquarters in California. This 77-meter glass pyramid is meant to symbolize and encourage harmony between world religions and ethnic groups. It hosts the Triennial Congress of World and Traditional Religions. But for a few, it's just more confirmation bias, since it's obviously a direct reference to the Illuminati's pyramid imagery. Occult influence, right? Oh, and in December, the Opera Hall in the lower level of the pyramid will host the grand finale of Asia's Got Talent, which, as far as I can tell, is not a production of the New World Order, I don't think. At the opposite end of Nurzal Boulevard, the plaza that runs through the heart of Astana, is a place that is yet to draw the side glance of conspiracists, the Khan Shatir. But even our secret overlords need to buy clothes, order Starbucks, and take the kids to see an animatronic T-Rex once in a while, don't they? Well, this massive transparent structure is the largest mall in Central Asia, and it's actually the largest tent in the world. It's 150 meters tall and was designed to resemble a yurt. British architect Norman Foster, designer of the pyramid I mentioned earlier, was also behind this architectural feat. Inside Khan Shatir, there's a ton of entertainment options, a theater, a food court, huge variety of mall stores, and even an indoor beach resort. We stayed in an Airbnb near here and visited a number of times. Now, if you need a breather from all that crazy modernism and glass, the Hazrat Sultan Mosque is a peaceful and traditional stunner. It's the largest mosque in Central Asia, and it was built to honor Kazakhstan's cultural and spiritual heritage. And its name pays tribute to a revered 14th century Sufi scholar. Kazakhstan is a majority Muslim country, and Kazakhs identify with their Muslim heritage, but their religious practices are pretty moderate compared to much of the Muslim world. Wearing a headscarf or daily attendance in mosques is not really that common, and alcohol is pretty widely available. Architecturally, the mosque blends classic Islamic design with traditional Kazakh elements. It features white marble walls, intricate calligraphy, and spacious prayer halls that can accommodate up to 10,000 worshippers. And since Freemasonry is strictly prohibited in Islam, I guess the conspiracy theorists aren't too suspicious of all the lovely geometric patterns in the design here.
You know what the most underrated thing about basketball is? The assists.
If you want to learn a bit more about Kazakhstan's long history, the nearby National Museum is huge and packed with rich and diverse exhibits spanning ancient to modern times. Highlights include the iconic Golden Man, which is a reconstructed Sakha warrior clad in gold, treasures from Scythian burial mounds, and immersive displays on nomadic culture with yurts, traditional clothing, and musical instruments. Visitors can explore Kazakhstan's role along the Silk Road and learn more about the country's modern history. Strangely enough, though, no exhibits of Illuminati history. Once the hot summer sun gets lower in the sky,
you don't need it, because and that goes back to what I said in the very beginning. The Illuminati, I think, is really only based over here. The New World Order doesn't have anything to do with the Illuminati. I think that's the misconception that people are forgetting. The Illuminati and New World Order don't have anything to do with each other. The New World Order is to take over the Illuminati. Or should I say, step over them and make their own thing. The Illuminati is what's going on now. So of course there's no real Freemason symbolism in the museum there, because everything there is all the architectural artifacts that's from, let's just say, ancient artifacts that's back in the day. They're to symbolize the giants and the Nephilim from back in the day. They're not to symbolize Freemasonry. That stuff is there to symbolize of the giants that were here before us.
People come out in droves, and the plazas and parks that were deserted midday rapidly fill with families and strolling couples. The walking paths along the banks of the Ishim River are lovely to stroll on in the evening as well, and have plenty of local eats to choose from. Conspiracists claim that Astana's futuristic architecture, full of pyramids, domes, and symbolic shapes, is proof of a secret Illuminati cabal, or that this is the hub of a soon-to-be instituted New World Order. But surprise, there's no real evidence for any of this, beyond just wild speculation and coincidence. In reality, Astana's bold design is about projecting Kazakhstan's national identity and global ambitions. The architecture reflects a blend of tradition, modernity, and a desire to emerge on the world stage. If this were really a secret base for an elite takeover, why make it look so obviously like one? I actually found the city to be fun,
hiding in plain sight, that's why.
Energetic, welcoming, and a little
he just said it himself. Why make it obviously look like one?
Strange, but in a good way. Astana is one of those places that you can't fully explain, you just have to see it. The people were great, the sights were jaw-dropping, and the weird but fascinating vibe makes me want to come back. So some logistics if you want to come here. Astana has a modern airport and is well connected to Europe and Asia. For tourist visits under 30 days, visas are not required for many nationalities, including the EU, much of Asia, and the Americas. Getting around Astana using the Yandex Go rideshare app is easy and super cheap. For example, a 25-minute ride from the airport to our Airbnb cost under $6. But most of the rides we took were half of that. There's scooter and bike share rentals available as well using the Whoosh app. We visited in mid-June and the weather was wonderful. Highs around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, lows around 70. However, be warned that winter is super frigid here, and Astana is one of the world's coldest capital cities. And the city's river is typically frozen from mid-November until early April. The currency of Kazakhstan is the Kazakhstani tenge, which is currently about 500 to the US dollar. We actually didn't use any cash during our 3-day visit. Credit cards were accepted literally everywhere.
Kazakh and Russian are the main languages spoken here. English is not widely spoken or understood. You'll find Google Translate will definitely become your friend.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found this helpful,
okay, so real quick. So here's the crazy thing about this, right? And this is why I said a lot of the artifacts that are there in that museum are belong to the Giants. And this is going to correlate to what is going on in Antarctica, I believe, as well. Excuse me. The 200 fallen angels, known as the Watchers of, or I should say, the Watchers or Egrogori, Armiac, are described in the Book of 1 Enoch, as divine beings who abandoned heaven, descendant to Mount Hermon, and corrupted humanity, led by Semyaza. That was one of the things we saw there, and Azazel. Okay, so we're going to look at that list here in a second again. They took human wives, but get this, fathered giants, the Nephilim, and taught forbidden knowledge. So literally, we just found out through this finding of where the 200 fallen angels are going to come and meet later on. We actually found out the root to mankind, in a sense, because we just found out the root to the Nephilim and how the Nephilim were made. Remember, this is from the Book of Enoch here in the fallen angels. And remember, when we looked at Iron Sky, and one of the fallen angels you had Enki and Enlil of the Anunnaki. Remember, they created us because the Nephilim had rebelled. So you see how now the stories are intertwining? Everything is literally coming back full circle now. Even with us finding out now where the 200 fallen angels might have already originally met, or they're planning to meet again when the Great Reset happens, which, remember, what he was talking about before with the announcement of the trumpets, this is why I said before in the beginning, I don't think this is something that's going to happen this year as far as, the showing of the 200 fallen angels and them meeting up and us having that apocalyptic event. We're not even there yet as far as that goes. We're in the dawning part of it, but we're not there yet. The dawning part of it now is everything that's happening with the Anunnaki starting to even show themselves above the waters in Israel, because they said already in the book that they're going to have the orbs, or should I say the light will come out of the water, which is the Anunnaki, showing the humans there that they are safe as long as they are watching them. Again, you have what they call the Watchers, the 200 fallen angels. When it is time and one of the 7 trumpets start to go off, we will start to see the emergence of those 200 fallen angels. We are on that path already, because remember, the whole thing about the smart cities is they want to have that done by 2028. So something like this even happening within the next, I want to say, 2 to 4 years. I want to say between 2 and 4 years, I believe it's going to be more normal for us to even expect seeing something like this happen, because we're already being predicted. They're already using predictive programming on us with things like Disclosure, the Steven Spielberg movie that's coming out. You have Donald Trump saying that, they're disclosing the evidence of the aliens. We have Project Bluebeam that's literally around the corner. So again, with all of these things, and then there's a giant portal there in Astana. It's a giant portal in Astana across from the giant pyramid where the 200 fallen angels are going to meet. On top of it, you had the 2 giant pillars made out of gold with the points for someone to come through and stand. And it's too many things. It's just way too many coincidences in this one place. Like I said, this is the name of the angels here. The names of the Nephilim, the fallen ones. And I was trying to see if some of those cities were actually named after some of these Nephilim. I believe some of them are. Just that the one we looked up, of course, probably wasn't. But we can already tell some of these names are definitely like Patrol. That was there, of course. But some of these names are definitely around this Mount Hermon, where the fallen angels actually descended to. Crazy how I came across this list here of angels and fallen angels as well, though. So, Astana, the pyramid where 200 watchers gather, myth, symbolism, or something more. Okay, so this was done just what? 10 days ago in the heart of Astana. Now, Nur Sultan. I'm going to say that it's going to roll off right off my tongue one day. Kazakhstan's capital stands a massive glass pyramid, the Palace of Peace and Reconciliation, designed by renowned architect Norman Foster and opened in 2006. It officially hosts meetings of world religious leaders, symbolizing tolerance, dialogue, and peace. At the top is a circular hall with exactly 200 chairs arranged around a table, meant for representatives of different faiths. Here's where and this is what I was talking about before, where I don't think it's necessarily a thing with religions. I think this is more of a thing where we're going to see the different species of what we would say aliens, but the different species of the Nephilim. The ancient apocryphal text, Book of Enoch, not in the official Bible but influential in many traditions, describes 200 fallen angels called Watchers, Gregory. They descended to earth. Enoch 6 says Mount Hermon took human wives, taught forbidden knowledge, weapon making, magic, cosmology, and caused chaos before the flood. So this is where, like I said, when they started to rebel against the Anunnaki, because the Anunnaki was already here, and pretty much the Anunnaki had, I guess, enslaved them. And that's when they started to rebel against him, and they didn't want to work anymore. Because originally, like they always talk about the ancient times of the giants, and even they had to work. So I'm thinking that's exactly how we started to become. I should say they started to create us something that was more manageable and controllable, something that was a lot smaller. That would make a lot of sense. Something that they didn't have to necessarily take effort as far as disciplining and teaching. So they made a much smaller version of the Nephilim, which would be us. So in online communities, Reddit, TikTok, okay, when I say that, they say it's no coincidence this is a place where the fallen angels there represents symbolically or energetically gather, adding a modern sci-fi layer, Berkeley currents, real cosmic electric plasma streams connecting the sun to Earth in planets discovered by Christian Berkelin. Some theories claim that on March 20th, 2026, what's that say? 236. These currents get hijacked or taken over in Astana, as if the planet's energy grid is being rewritten. 3/20/26. Other symbols from the image, the 47.1 angle linked to the silver ratio and heartbeat, meridian, frequencies 555. Oh, wow. 555 again. Frequencies 555. Is that trilohertz? Yeah, trilohertz. Higher overwhelming energy versus 480 trilohertz. Lower battle frequency. Connection to E8 lattice, a mathematical structure from string. All right, let me make sure I'm reading this right. So other symbols from the image. Oh, that's okay. So they're talking about the Are they talking about the portal? It sounds like they're talking about the portal here. The 13th element as a natural conductor portal. Yeah, okay. So portals at Giza, Sedona, Rishat structure. Okay, they're talking about the portal here. That's what they're talking about. It has a certain energy and frequency to it. That's crazy. That's crazy. That portal we were looking at. It has a certain frequency to it. Where is it at? That's crazy. That's insane. All right, where was I at though? So I know I didn't exit out. Where the fuck was I reading? Oh, okay, here. Okay. So the whole narrative suggests a massive cosmic shift. The old reality breaks, humanity gains direct access to higher dimensions. Ah, okay. So that would be why this is part of the trial of tribulation in the Book of Revelations. That would be why, because it's literally the point where we are able to see and understand and comprehend everything. Okay, that makes sense now. That makes a lot more sense. Which, of course, that's why they were talking about people would literally die out of fear if they were to actually see like a draconian reptilian right now in its actual form, or one of the other shape shifting anomaly aliens that there are. The average human being would literally die out of fear, is what they're saying, because their minds aren't ready to comprehend what is on the other dimension and other planes already. Officially, it's a real conference building. The 200 chairs are for genuine interfaith dialogues. It has hosted congresses. Pope Francis was once planned to attend. No official document mentions Enoch's watchers or current hijacking. In conspiracy, esoteric circles, this is a portal, a site of new era activation where old forces try to control the grid, or where liberation happens. The date, March 20th, 2026, likely ties to the spring equinox, which we are in the spring solstice as well. So prepare to start seeing more bodies drop. Excuse me. Some astrological energetic alignment, though no major public event is announced yet. It's a wild mix, real architecture, biblical apocrypha, modern physics, and spiritual theories. To some, pure speculation. To others, a hidden code for something profound. And this is what they were talking about here. 47.1 degrees. Pyramid of Peace, Reconciliation, the 200 chairs. Which is more of a breakdown of what I'm looking at here. This is one of those things I wish I had, like truth is number or something. So the natural nodes hold the 13th element, grounds the grid. The silver ratio scrambles the signal. The 181 lock shatters. So this is pretty much the spiritual awakening of man. Right here, down here, what my pointer is, if you can see it, where this guy is standing at, next to this, right here. This is the enlightenment of man right here. This is a better thank you. It's a better picture of it. Okay. So Astana counter-conducted the 200 watchers, the Birkeland and current hijack. Natural nodes, so the 13th element grounds the grid. Okay. So this pretty much happened, 11 days ago? Ironically, 11. Okay, so that's what that makes. Okay, so that's what the 47 degrees is. It's the heartbeat meridian. The vacuum plasma cavity vector, the silver ratio grounding angle. Now people say they're grounding, like they pretty much go bare feet and walk on the ground, being one with the earth and the energies. I see Sedona there. Geyser's Great Pyramid. So pretty much all of these things sent out an energy on March 20th. because of how everything was. Oh wow, wasn't there? Was there something that happened March 20th? Let me see something. March 20th. Artemis 2 rocket arrives on launch pad. Let me see. So I just want to see what a cosmic. Let me see. Cosmic event. March equinox. 246. March 20th marks a rare moment when light and darkness share equal space across the earth, creating a feeling of balance, like grounding, that many people sense deeply within their daily lives. The equinox brings a sense of alignment. So it's the first day of the March equinox, a sense of alignment where energy feels softer, clearer, and more open for new experiences that may appear without force or pressure. Many people see this day as a doorway where fresh ideas, connections, and unexpected chances begin forming in subtle ways. I had enlightenment that day for that's crazy. This moment also reflects inner harmony where thoughts and emotions can settle into a more grounded state that supports calm decisions and gentle forward movement. It invites awareness of small signs, chance encounters, and divine timing that feel almost guided by something larger than daily routine. The equinox carries a message of trust in a natural flow, where life unfolds with surprising ease when attention stays present and receptive. It's a reminder that balance exists even during times of change, and that something meaningful often arrives when openness replaces control. Wait a minute, what day was the? I made this is kind of a reach, but I'm just curious of something. Okay. 6 days ago. 25th, 5 days later. Okay. Dainty Delighted, what's going on? Because they had the light and dark in the interviews. Anyway, back where we were. Okay. I feel like I got to do some more research on what happened this day with all this alignment. Almost as if they're saying the 200 fallen angels already showed up. You know what I mean? Almost as if they already showed up for one quick meeting real quick. There's an eye. Also, that creeped me out. All right, so in closing, we have found where possibly the New World Order building would be. And it's nowhere near even being in the U.S. because they also say that the trumpets are that first trumpet is going to happen when the fall of the fall of the three happen. Ukraine, Russia, and the United States are the three. So, being that we are one of the three, that is another reason why you're starting to see a lot of celebrities do their last little go-arounds, because it's about to be a wrap, bro, over here in America, to be honest with you. But this will not be the end of us talking about this. We will be getting back to more of this in the future. What I also wanted to talk about was, or should I say go over, was a video I had found on it's called The Agenda from from Oracle Films. They're just like a channel like me where they're not really monetized. They don't really get no light. But I wanted to show y'all them real quick. Oracle Films. So if you do want to help them out, definitely check them out as well. Here, Oracle Films, they very, very good documentaries. As you can see, they only one. The video we're looking at today is called The Agenda. It has the 1.2 million views, but the reason why it has the 1.2 million views is because of all the information that's pretty much put out. So without further ado, I bring to you The Agenda. And if you guys would like to donate, the Cash App again is there on the left hand side of the screen. You also have the PayPal if you would like to use it. I'll put the link in the chat here in just a second as well. Please, if you guys can donate this week, it would be greatly appreciated. We try to meet a small $50 goal. So even if I meet just half the way to the goal, if I get $10, $20, $30 or something like that, I'm always happy with that. I don't never have to hit the $50 goal for me to be happy. It's fine. Like I said, I'm demonetized on this channel as well, so I don't get money from this necessarily. Doing the lives anyway. So if you guys would like to donate, I would greatly appreciate it. It always goes a long way. Mainly goes to me getting back and forth to work and helping me out there, because it's about $200-$300 a week for me to get back and forth to work. So I would greatly appreciate it if you guys could help out there. Like I said, the Cash App there is ChillMurray1. The PayPal is gclassmusicgroup@gmail.com. I'll put it in the chat here as I get this video started. Again, we're going to look at The Agenda, their vision in the future for 2025.
Ladies and gentlemen, the distinguished author, Mr. Aldous Huxley.
Brave New World is a fantastic parable about the dehumanization of human beings. In the negative utopia described in my story, man has been subordinated to his own inventions. Science, technology, social organization, these things have ceased to serve man. They have become his masters.
Aldous Huxley's novel portrays a dystopian future under the dictatorship of a world state, where every aspect of human life is controlled, from laboratory creation to the grave. He described the story as fantasy, but later wrote, "The prophecies made in 1931 are coming true much sooner than I thought they would. The nightmare of total organization has emerged and is now awaiting us, just around the next corner."
With the rise of brain-computer interfaces and biometric sensors and so forth, all the bodies, all the brains would be connected together to a network, and you won't be able to survive if you're disconnected from the net.
All life on Earth is going to be radically changed.
It's a fusion of the physical.
So this pretty much is going to be talking about a lot of the things that we've discussed here on the channel, as far as the RFID chip and the connection with these smart cities that they're developing. So they're going to be beta testing human beings being, attached to a grid in LA. That's why we had the big fire that happened, or fires that happened in LA. And Mel Gibson even pointed it out, like, yo, this felt real calculated and organized, the way that this actually happened, and the way that the firemen pretty much hesitated on even trying to put it out like that. it lets you know that there was something also happening there. Come to find out, we learned that 2028 they were going to be planning on developing the smart cities, or plan to be finished with the smart cities in LA. Then the hurricanes that happened in Jamaica, they plan on having a smart city done in Jamaica very soon. So they're beta testing now how people are going to be attached to a grid, to where you pretty much have to follow the rules within this grid and have that RFID chip on you, or you pretty much cannot interact with any of your own devices, your home, your family, get money, your job, drive your car, walk in different places, buy food. If you're not attached to this network, you pretty much will not be allowed to do anything.
It's the digital and the biological world. It's changing who we are.
These people have gotten to the point now where they are openly anti-human.
Everything will be monitored. The environmental consequences of every human action.
They cannot happen without digital ID.
Once the digital ID is in place, it's game over for humanity.
The ideology of a world dictated through science is deep-rooted. Almost a century ago, a movement was established in the United States, preaching that the population should be governed by an elite of selected experts, scientists, and academics, rather than democratically elected politicians. They called it technocracy.
These engineers and scientists from Columbia University promoted what they thought was going to be the replacement for capitalism and free enterprise. It's not going to be price-based economic system. It's going to be based on resources and energy, control over energy. They thought that science was the answer for everything. They didn't have any spiritual bone at all. You know, they were very mechanistic in their thinking.
The definition was clear.
Technocracy is the science of social engineering, the scientific operation of the entire social mechanism to produce and distribute goods and services to the entire population.
The movement was short-lived, but the principle never died. As we'll demonstrate, a stranglehold on policy and resources has always been the ambition of the powerful oligarchs behind many of today's world institutions.
It seems to me that there's a very strong drift in the direction of globalization, of the ultimate centralization of control in the hands of unelected officials at supranational organizations. The lust to control other human beings is a story as old as time.
They want all of the resources of the world in their pocket. They do not want you and me to have anything. It's in writing all over the World Economic Forum's website. By 2030, you will own nothing and be happy. That's an oxymoron. If you don't have anything in your name, you ain't going to be happy about it.
The World Economic Forum may have called that infamous phrase a prediction, but it translates as a statement of intent on behalf of its global power brokers.
The bigger picture is that an attempt is underway now to collapse liberal democracy and replace it with global technocracy. What I call an omni-war is now underway, which is to say that the transnational ruling class is literally, it's not a metaphor, is literally at war with the rest of humanity and has weaponized everything that it can.
This is a coup. They can remove the power from the parliament and the legislative branch and consolidate it into a monetary system which has complete control.
That control is now entirely achievable because the would-be controllers finally have the tools to execute it. Total surveillance, artificial intelligence, digital IDs, and central bank digital currencies.
The potential for social control is gigantic and potentially irreversible.
What our experts are describing is a world commanded by an exclusive group of bankers and industrialists, affecting every aspect of our lives. What we eat, what we can buy, where we travel, where we live, and all bypassing democratically elected governments. You could be forgiven for thinking this is a grand conspiracy theory, but please consider this.
The term conspiracy theory has become one of the most successful propaganda terms of all time in closing down discussion and debate. It's a thought-terminating cliche, but nevertheless, it's surprisingly effective when you try to calmly present evidence in a factual and reasoned manner.
In this film, we will present evidence that the global takeover is not only possible, it's actually happening, and has been decades in the making. They plan to commandeer land, reduce farming, and radically change the food we eat, transform the supply of electricity, and then dictate how we use it, and replace currency with a system of credits under their control. It's a classic template. To win the war, take control of food, of energy, and of money. And here's the key. All three strategies are built on the premise of a climate crisis caused by carbon dioxide, a gas that is actually vital for life on the planet. So what if the whole carbon narrative was one gargantuan lie? A political maneuver to establish their brave new world.
A big lie is a lie which is told on such a scale that ordinary people simply would not imagine it to be possible.
People with empathy can't fathom that a group of people would organize and engineer this kind of mass atrocity to get where they want to go.
It should come as no surprise that financial kingpins are calling the shots. And it's certainly no conspiracy theory when banking executives spell out their intentions.
We are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new accounting is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens.
We are shifting to a new financial system, but the general population is not shifting to a new financial system. It's shifting to a control grid.
CBDC can allow government agencies and private sector players to program, to create smart contracts, to allow targeted policy functions. For example, welfare payment. For example, consumption coupon. For example, food stamp. By programming CBDC, those money can be precisely targeted for what kind of people can own and what kind of use this money can be utilized.
A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations, and also we will have the technology to enforce that.
They're saying we can control with rules. We don't need currency anymore. And so it's no longer a financial system or a currency system. It's purely a digital concentration camp. It's a slavery system.
When Catherine Austin Fitts talks, we should listen. She's a former high-level investment banker in New York and held senior office in the first Bush administration in Washington.
There may be 1,000 models of how it could work. But essentially, you will have, whether it's a banking account or a credit card, and it can be turned off and on. So my incentive system is not you go to work and work hard and you get money. My incentive system can be based on how you behaved in the last 5 minutes, on a 24/7 basis.
CBDCs, as the name suggests, would be issued by central banks like the Federal Reserve in America and the Bank of England, not by high street banks. They would signal the end of cash, and every transaction you make would be transparent and held on a permanent database. Crucially, under a net zero regime, your carbon footprint could be at the heart of the system.
We're developing, through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So, individual carbon footprint tracker.
this can be the infrastructure for a carbon credit system. It's totalitarian control, and if people don't become aware of it now, it's going to be too late to backtrack from this. It's a ratchet system where it's very difficult, if not impossible, to backtrack.
But why is now the time for change?
Because the system is in crisis. It entered crisis in 2019. Mark Carney, he talked quite openly about how the international monetary and financial system had entered profound crisis and was effectively on its last legs.
If you study the history of how the central bankers designed technocracy, essentially when they created the Fed, they said, look, this can't last forever. We're going to need, at some point somebody's going to get hip to this game. We're going to need another system. And I will say this, because I used to be part of that, I was born and bred to be a central banker. They plan ahead hundreds of years in advance.
Predictably, the money brokers seem to hold all the cards. As a subtext, does the ruling class need to protect itself as artificial intelligence threatens mass unemployment? And what will happen to our existing assets if the banking system is collapsed and money disappears overnight? In an unknown future, one thing is certain. Digital IDs are essential to the project. If they become compulsory, data on every detail of our lives will be monitored, stored, and monetized. Nothing, but nothing, would be private.
For younger people, often it's the case that they like technology.
I was just going to say, they are already indoctrinating us into this lifestyle. I'm just thinking about all the different technologies that there are, from Alexa to the smartphone, our consoles, our TVs, our lights, our cars. Do you know how many things are automatic with the introduction now of AI? I mean, half of jobs now are even artificially done. We are already indoctrinated into this lifestyle of just, we want everything to be fast and accessible very quickly. So with that, you already have the programmed incentive in your mind of, I can make my life easier just by abiding by their system. Kind of crazy already, isn't it?
They're completely au fait with it. They enjoy it. So they don't see the dangers that technology can bring because, like a drug dealer does, you feed people, low levels of drug where it's all fun. And then later, when you have them addicted, you feed the hard stuff and that destroys their life. So in a similar way, all of this technology is currently pretty much nice. But when the central bank digital currency comes in and the control comes in and the censorship systems, then the younger people will realize all too late in many cases that they've walked themselves into a trap.
One man who knows the dangers only too well is Aman Jabi, who was at the forefront of digital development in Silicon Valley, California, for 25 years. He left when he recognized the dark side of surveillance technology, choosing instead the peace and beauty of Montana. He's an expert in facial recognition.
It's a technique that is used to uniquely identify the biometrics of any face. So, in a device like your smartphone, and most modern smartphones in the last 5 or 7 years, they have a 3D camera module in the front of the phone, which you cannot see. Within that module is a near-infrared projector, which projects tens of thousands of dots on your face. Those dots are then distorted based on the contours and the features of your face. And there's a near-infrared camera then takes a picture of that distortion, captures it, and then reverse engineers the exact profile of your face. In the longer term, facial recognition will be used to unlock your digital identity, which is going to be a tool of control for the agendas that are coming down the pipeline.
Elements of that control are already with us.
Alexa, good morning.
Good morning.
You are never alone in your home, and this is why. All your devices at home and all smart appliances, they are all connected on a wireless network. Many of these devices will have cameras, many will have microphones, and so they are monitoring everything all the time. Your smart appliances are communicating with the smart meter and sending it real-time usage data. If there's a Ring camera also in your home, a mesh network is formed, and all your devices are being tracked within the home, its location, its usage, and all the data is going to Amazon servers. When you leave your home, all modern vehicles are connected to the internet, so your automobile is being tracked all the time. When you're going under a string of smart LED poles and smart LED lights on the highway and in the streets of your towns and cities, those form a wireless network and are tracking your vehicle. They are tracking.
Do we already not have all this? Like, we already have all this. That's the crazier part. All of this shit is already here.
All the devices on you, from smartphones to smartwatches when you're walking on the streets. So data is being collected 24/7 continuously on every human being whenever you are within these wireless networks.
And it's obviously not good for health also because of all the electromagnetic radiation.
In the long term, the plan is to pretty much lock up humanity in smart cities, which is kind of a superset of a 15-minute city.
They've sold all the state and local governments and countries that smart cities are about sustainability and the good of the city. But in reality, the language from the UN and WEF and their white papers is all inverted. So, air monitoring is really about limiting mobility and no car ownership. Right? Surveillance, control via LED grid is why the smart lighting is there. Water management is about water rationing, noise pollution is about speed surveillance, traffic monitoring is about limiting mobility, and then, of course, energy conservation is all about rationing heat, electricity, and gasoline. Another concept one should be familiar with is called geofencing, and that's, think of it as an invisible fence around you where you cannot go beyond a certain point. And that
the crazy part is, right, they have that at my job. So without saying too much, like, the techs will call in and be like, yo, I need you to just, you know what I'm saying, give me a job real quick because got this geofencing shit. My shit acting up. I can't even, you know what I'm saying, get off my job real quick. I got to close it for them. You know what I'm saying? Little things like that. It's a grid that pretty much prevents them from using the technology that they use, the mobile technology that they use to actually get off of the job. So there's a geofence sometimes around that messes them up from doing that. Swayze World, what's going on?
Be related to your face recognition, digital identity, and access control. Your smart contracts, SoftBrick can turn off your digital currency beyond a certain point from your house. Our world has been turned into a digital panopticon.
That means you can be monitored, analyzed, managed, and monetized.
Surveillance capitalists are already making billions of dollars selling our information to big corporations, because this kind of detailed knowledge enables them to predict and influence our behavior. Worse, our children are being exploited.
There are a lot of board games and other games that are already in the market and have been for over 2 years that have cameras inside and underneath these LED screens that are observing and scoring and emotionally calibrating the faces of all the children. So are all the iPads that they use in schools. They're all manipulating children's behavior by what they display on the screens. And child data is big business. There's a concept called social impact investing, which people should read up on. If your kids are in schools, they are already being traded on Wall Street in real time.
That's the crazy part, right? Like, just think about the little things of how many kids you know are just babies in general, right? That not even in school yet. How many of them you know are being raised pretty much by their tablets? Just type a 1 in the chat if you know one or two different kids that you've seen just, you know, they're just stuck in front of the damn tablet all the damn time. just all the time. And it's not, it's not the parents' fault. It's the technology that they're just already used to. It's just there already. Like he just said, a lot of them are already being, because they have to put their information in, emails and whatnot, create little kid emails and whatnot. Right, addicted. They have to put their little information in already. They're already in the system. They're already their date. They just started life. Their data is already there.
They can bet on groups of kids whether they're going to be successful or not, whether they're going to become computer scientists or environmental engineers. So children have become essentially a commodity and have been for years with this system. And once it's fully in place, it is going to be used to fully control the behavior of children as well as how they behave with respect to, diversity, equity, inclusivity, etc.
The Chinese have already gone one step further.
Classrooms have robots that analyze students' health and engagement levels. Students wear uniforms with chips that track their locations. There are even surveillance cameras that monitor how often students check their phones or yawn during classes. These sensors pick up electrical signals sent by neurons in the brain. The neural data is then sent in real time to the teacher's computer.
We've been drawn into this digital spy network in the name of convenience, connectivity, safety, and especially entertainment. The 3D world of cyberspace creates virtual lives that are...
That shit still scares the death out of me. I have one of them things. I'm still scared to use it. I have one of these. I got one of these from school in Full Sail. I'm still scared to put this bitch on. I don't want to be in that world. No, not ready for it yet. I'm not ready for it yet. No. I don't want to be in no digital world. That's not this one. Okay. Jump up down. What's going on? Yes, we do. We do, my brother.
Often more.
We definitely do. Whatever rank you need, I am there.
Exciting than reality.
Why is this technology being developed? It's all for the culmination of this digital prison from which there will be no escape.
That is a scary thing in itself, that our children are already being indoctrinated into this lifestyle just because they are already getting used to the lifestyle because they want these things that they see already. That's wild.
After all the switches are turned on.
The critical switch would be the introduction of those digital IDs and central bank financial control. A world of zero trust.
Zero trust is based on a simple principle. Never trust, always verify.
Zero trust is a protocol that is implemented by cybersecurity companies. And what it really means is we don't trust you and you have to prove who you are all the time, 24/7. So think of it as going from a world of...
That's almost like, I'm on Friday and Saturday, so we get on it Friday and Saturday. But that's like how they have the thing now where you can't get into something unless they say, "Yo, you need to verify that you're a human." You guys see how they show how many bikes and cars and planes and shit there are on the screen. And you guys say, "How many of these are a plane?" You got to pick out the damn pattern and picture and shit. Little things like that, or they got to do verify codes and whatnot to make sure you're not a robot. They have already programmed y'all to have to do that, to verify yourself. Your login, just even the login information, your email and whatnot that tracks where you're going, tracks what websites you're going on to. The browser that you use is attached to your email. Your YouTube is attached to your email. Everything you do attached. Your phone is attached to an email. You're already programmed to verify yourself with every fucking thing you do.
Implicit allow to default deny. In tomorrow's world, once zero trust is implemented in, say, retail, everything will be behind plexiglass doors with a 3D camera, and it'll only be unlocked through your digital identity and facial recognition if you have the available carbon credits in your digital currency.
If you've reached the limit of your allowance, it could be access denied. This would apply to fuel, to travel.
So imagine you broke. You ain't even got the $5 yet. You sitting there waiting for somebody to send it to you. To send it to your body and your credits. And damn, you can't even open up the juice to see if it is expired. You just sitting there like, God damn, I ain't got no credits on me. Remember that movie with Justin Timberlake where they was on actual time? I forgot what it was called, but something with time. But pretty much the currency was basically in time. So if a person had 20 hours, they had $20. If a person had, say, 100 hours, they had $100. Shit like that, right? Unfortunately, spoiler alert, what happens in the movie is his mama dies. Well, she looks very young. The crazier part in this world. She dies because she either had to choose between getting on the bus to meet her son in 15 minutes or use the 15 or save the 15 minutes and try to run to him in 15 minutes before she dies, because all she had was 15 minutes left and it was just going out. So she either had to choose between paying the 15 minutes to get on the bus and make it to him or run to him and make it in the 15 minutes. She didn't make it in the 15 minutes. But that's pretty much what they're describing this as. Pretty much your currency is attached to you. It's not even a bank account. It's a one world currency. That's why they say it's a one world currency. It's pretty much going to be the government is controlling the credits it distributes out to you.
To meat and dairy products, to clothes and other consumer goods. Because everything in life could be valued by its carbon footprint. Even access to the internet could be denied.
So the new world of zero trust is really a world of locks. It's like an inverted prison. You are supposedly free to roam about, but everything you want to access is behind lock and key.
Most advances in science, including AI, bring great advantages to the world. They can enhance and improve human endeavor in almost every walk of life. But you don't have to be a scientist to see the flip side.
They're constantly monitored by facial recognition cameras that are able to instantly put a face to a name. Now, the Chinese are also ranked, given a mark out of a possible 950 points. For now, the number is a sort of bank credit rating, keeping track of everyone's spending habits.
That's crazy, keeping a track of everyone else's spending habits at that. But yes, but that is also the idea. It's also the idea of things, right? To create more poverty. The idea is to create a system where there is no middle class, where it's just either you are rich or you are poor. And majority are going to be poor so that they are easier to control. The richer will have more rebellion to them. The poor will not.
It may seem scary, but it's just like that here. We're used to it. And anyway, we don't have a choice.
If you think this couldn't happen in the West, ask yourself why so many cameras, smart poles, and 5G networks are being installed in your neighborhood. In London, the police are using facial recognition surveillance. Sainsbury's is already experimenting with AI.
Thank you for waiting. The cabinet will now be opened.
In UK railway stations, surveillance is being tested to collect travellers' data. And in Oxford, these barriers were installed by the council under its so-called 15-minute city plan. They were removed following protests. But look at what's replacing them in these quiet residential streets. As the tech companies are proud to tell us, the possibilities are endless.
We've developed the camera into a sensor. The camera does not only capture video, it can now start to count, measure, and detect. With deep learning capability, the camera is able to generate accurate and trustworthy data and send notifications in order to take action, all directly from the camera. And since our cameras have open technology, well, we can work with different analytic partners from all over the world and together do just about anything we want.
Note that they can do just about anything they want.
Digital technologies mainly have an analytical power. Now we go into a predictive power. But since the next step could be to go into a prescriptive mode, which means you do not even have to have elections anymore, because we know what the result will be.
Ultimately, we're facing manipulation by the system. A world where instead of us using technology, technology is using us. But who's really pulling the strings? Banking and oil dynasties like Rothschild and Rockefeller inevitably get mentioned, as do the modern-day big tech masters, including the ubiquitous Bill Gates. David Hughes takes a wider view.
It's those who own the means of production, who are capable of magicking money out of thin air, who control the media, and all of the other means of production, which have now been weaponized against the rest of the global population.
Catherine Austin Fitz, the banking insider, adds a sinister thought.
If you know their name, they're not at the top.
Either way, it's a story of power, money, and manipulation by a small group of people who share common interests, and a belief that the world needs top-down control for maximum efficiency. As we'll see, it could result in the destruction of the farming industry in favor of laboratory foods, and a shortage of electricity because of the race to net zero.
Net zero means the impoverishment of ordinary people. It means fundamental changes to their lifestyles, and the politicians are not being honest with the people about it.
Surprisingly, the blueprint for transformation is woven into the United Nations Agenda 2030, ostensibly a vision for a better world.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I say again that taken together, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Paris Climate Agreement provide humanity with a master plan for a sustainable way of life on this planet.
New York City, late September 2024, the setting for the United Nations Summit of the Future, a gathering of member nations to reinforce and accelerate Agenda 2030 and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. The plan has a broad spectrum and is full of worthy ambition. But behind those deliberately bright and colourful boxes lies a darker theme, a shifting of influence and potentially power towards unelected world bodies. The strategy goes back well into the last century, and pressure is growing, because the goals are far behind targets set at the grand relaunching in 2015. Well into lies a dark.
So we had no poverty, zero hungry, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, social protection and decent jobs, transforming education systems, digital transformation, affordable and clean energy, industry innovation and infrastructure, sustainable cities, communities, climate action, life below water, and life on land.
A theme, a shifting of influence and potentially power.
And you have energy and access and affordability in the food
towards
systems,
unelected world.
climate change, biodiversity, loss and pollution.
Bodies.
Pretty much saying that they're going to simplify all these things through the smart cities.
The strategy goes back well into the last century, and pressure is growing, because the goals are far behind targets set at the grand relaunching in 2015.
17 inspiring Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. Our aim is clear. Our mission is possible. and our destination is in our sights.
To end poverty and hunger, address inequality, protect our planet, and build a life of dignity for all.
It appears to be a noble and ambitious program for a perfect world. And who could argue with those aspirations? But critics insist the goals are not what they seem. Alex Newman is a journalist and broadcaster who's been investigating the issue for 15 years. He has his own way of interpreting the rhetoric.
You have to learn to speak what I call UNEs. You have to know what the terms mean if you want to truly understand what is being discussed. When they talk about peacekeeping forces or the peacekeeping role of the United Nations, they're actually talking about the war-making capabilities of the United Nations. So you have this Orwellian doublespeak. When they talk about transparency, more often than not, they're talking about eliminating your privacy. Human rights is another very, very good example. They make very clear in this document that your rights can be restricted under the guise of public order or morality or whatever the case may be. And so they're saying, here's your rights, but by the way, they're not really rights. We can revoke them at any time. The UN is filled with contradictions like this. Like, for example, when they talk about gender equality, right? A normal person in the Western world thinks gender equality means a woman has a right to earn money, to own property, to have all the rights and privileges that a man would have. When you look at the individuals who lead this movement within the UN, you're talking about radical feminists. You're talking about people who are very interested in dissolving the nuclear family. As you dig into these goals, it's very clear we're dealing with something far more nefarious. Once you look past the marketing slogans, the kind of warm and fuzzy, we're going to end hunger, which again is just window dressing, you realize that this is actually a blank check for totalitarian global control.
Author and campaigner, the late Rosa Koire, called out the plan more than a decade ago.
It is the biggest public relations scam in the history of the world. But it's far more than that. It's a blueprint. It is the act.
If you recognize this lady, hold on. If you recognize this lady, the same lady that told y'all about Project Bluebeam, she was like, he told me the last card, the extraterrestrial. This is the same exact lady.
The biggest public relations scam in the history of the world. But it's far more than that. It's a blueprint. It is the action plan to inventory and control all land, all water, all minerals, all plants, all animals, all construction, all information, all energy, all means of production, and all human beings in the world.
What can be measured can be managed and ultimately monetized. In fact, a study at Yale University has calculated that the natural assets of the world are worth $5 quadrillion. Is this the basis of the new world monetary system? And is it the deep underlying reason for the United Nations project to rewild 50% of the Earth by 2050?
They talk a lot about biodiversity. They want you to think of like, oh, we're going to preserve the toucans and the parrots and the whatever lizards. But when you actually dig into this, what they're talking about is creating, and they're working on it now, an international database with virtually all of the genetic material of all of the species on the planet. And then they want to start mixing and matching it. Bill Gates, ultimately, and his buddies want to end up in total control over all life on the planet.
Is it a coincidence, then, that Bill Gates has become the largest private landowner in America while planning to build smart cities in which to corral the general population? What is indisputable is that the oligarchs of global business are embedded in United Nations policy.
They don't care about the planet. They care about getting in. Finance goes to where it gets the greatest return. There's a move into the green finance. It's all about profit. It's not about the planet.
This is not conjecture. Under the guise of climate change and net zero, vast fortunes are already being amassed. Take carbon exchange markets. Companies emitting excess carbon dioxide can buy credits from businesses that are carbon negative. But increasingly, many are paying a high price to offset their emissions against land schemes. Grasslands, forests, conservation projects, and so on. Some legitimate, others not so. Either way, the brokers and middlemen get rich, while having no impact on actual carbon emissions. We've also seen the emergence of natural asset companies, whose name says it all.
They identify the asset and then issue shares.
That is a lot. That is a lot. 5 quadrillion. That is a lot. Yes, you're absolutely right. We're scary to make this possible. So, Cyberpunk, I have a theory with Cyberpunk, right? Cyberpunk, the video game, actually was planned to fail because of how realistic it was to the actual future that they're talking about here in this documentary. So, think about how the Matrix was very realistic in showing you how machine and AI was pretty much going to be interacting with human beings. And pretty much everything you did was going to be through the credit system of the New World Order. That was in the actual Cyberpunk video game. That's why you even had to pick between you being part of the elites, or you had to choose between being, amongst the city, being in the city. And yes, like I said, this is pretty scary how much this is becoming our actual reality right now.
In that asset, out of thin air, essentially. And they can sell it to financial institutions, asset managers, sovereign wealth funds. And then they go public and have an IPO, and that funding is, they say, meant to preserve the natural asset. But elsewhere, they say that their main purpose, like so much else, is to generate profit for shareholders. It has nothing to do with preserving the environment. That is literally just the talking point they think will stick and sell. We're all in it together. We got to save the planet. So let's allow the bankers to create a new racket that makes the natural world collateral.
So if everything in nature is to be traded on financial markets, setting a value on the land we walk on and the air we breathe, why do we, the public, have no say?
There's no route that an ordinary person can take to make a representation to United Nations. So it's fundamentally undemocratic. What it has done is build relationships with billionaires.
Right from the start, the rich and powerful have enjoyed undue influence in the UN's inner sanctum. In fact, the Rockefeller family part-financed its headquarters in Manhattan.
To hand you, Mr. Lee, my father's check. Thank you, Mr. Rockefeller.
Between them, the Rockefeller family has funded hundreds of organizations and, as a consequence, spread their authority on civil society, institutions, banking, education, and global politics. The Rockefellers always believed in world governance. In the 1950s, their Special Studies Project report declared,
"The UN stands finally as a symbol of the world order that will one day be built."
In 1973, David Rockefeller co-founded a non-governmental organization which still carries international power today.
Which, if you guys are following along to what we were talking about earlier with what's happening in Kazakhstan, in Astana, and the 200-seat pyramid, I believe that's the reason that we invested $50 billion into that. I guarantee you, they plan to migrate us over here before they finish what they are doing in Mars. Remember, we talked about what they're doing in Mars, with the plan to migrate us there, and the currency that they are making. I believe they are beta testing everything and planning to put us over there first.
The Trilateral Commission. Its stated objectives revived technocracy and in turn planted the seeds of the UN's Sustainable Development Agenda.
They said at the time that they were going to create a new international economic order. It was all over the literature. The goal of the new international economic order was not to get richer. in the sense of money. They knew even back then that eventually the fiat currency system of the world was going to disintegrate. So the goal became to actually capture the physical resources of the world. All wealth historically has come out of the ground. They wanted to take away everything that they could possibly take away from the nation states of the world and from private individuals of the world and stuff it into the global common trust where they would administrate it and they would be the ones getting licenses for the resources to turn around and make stuff.
The financial kingpins have long seen themselves as masters of the universe, manipulating global affairs through institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Is Agenda 2030 the defining act for complete control? And how significant was the global response to COVID-19?
As the world builds back from COVID-19, we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make investments that will strengthen the economy and improve public health, and fight climate change for generations to come.
One might ask why the UN needs a multi-billionaire finance and media player as a special envoy, or why Mark Carney, the former governor of the Bank of England, who called for a new global monetary system, is the UN's special envoy for climate action and finance. And then there's Larry Fink, the boss of BlackRock, the world's largest asset management company. He's a board member of the World Economic Forum, and as we'll see, has driven the UN's goals through investment strategies for the past 20 years.
Crazy thing about BlackRock, we looked up who BlackRock was. They were the main investors in the Trump assassination. They were the main investors in a lot of the world events that happened. So guarantee you, BlackRock has a hand in what's going on in Israel in general.
All three are principals of the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, a partnership with the UN. With the green economy worth trillions to corporations and investors alike, it's hard not to see a conflict of interests. Are the bankers raising money to achieve United Nations goals? Or are the goals a Trojan horse to change the world's financial control systems? Now consider the events at Jackson Hole, Wyoming in August 2019, only 3 months before the COVID outbreak. It's when Mark Carney delivered his call for change, and BlackRock proposed a new financial mechanism, Going Direct, which in principle allows central banks to channel capital direct to large corporations.
So the central bankers got together in 2019, the G7 central bankers, and voted on the Going Direct Reset. And the Going Direct Reset, of which the COVID operation was part of it, has done a phenomenally excellent job of massively consolidating capital into central control. If you look at the COVID operation from a financial standpoint, it was absolutely clear that it was one way you balance the books. It worked.
The major corporations like Amazon and others were allowed to continue business. Meanwhile, other businesses, particularly small and medium-sized entities, were deemed to be, quote, inessential. Many of them were put out of business. And so what we saw was a global wealth transfer of a reported $3.3 trillion from the working classes and the middle classes to this kind of super rich billionaire brigade.
The people who ran the operation made an absolute fortune. It was economically.
That's BlackRock. It's BlackRock. Because they even we showed the interview that the guy had snuck in, and he pretty much was telling the lady about how much shit that he controlled in the world that was going on through being a rep at BlackRock.
As a taking, it was a huge taking.
And that included billions of pounds of taxpayers' money going to pharmaceutical firms for so-called vaccines. Whatever the truth around COVID, Dr. Hughes says the response deployed dangerous...
Matter of fact, real quick, I'm pretty sure it's real easy to find as well. BlackRock rep caught talking. Yeah, this guy, the BlackRock recruiter.
They don't want people to talk about them. They don't want to be anywhere on the radar.
Why not?
I don't know, but I suspect it's probably because it's easier to do things when people aren't thinking about it. Or they don't want to be in the news. They don't want people to talk about them. They don't want to be in the news. They don't want people to talk about them. I don't know, but I suspect it's probably because it's easier to do things when people aren't thinking about it.
All of these financial institutions, they buy politicians. You can take this big ton of money, and then you can start to buy people.
I work for a company called BlackRock.
Meet Serge Varley, a recruiter at BlackRock.
Let me tell you, it's not through who's the president. It's who's controlling the wallet. So it's
And who's that?
The hedge funds, BlackRock, the banks. These guys want campaign financing. Yep, you can buy your candidates. Obviously, we have the system in place. First, there's the senators, and these guys are rich. You got 10 grand, you can buy a senator. I can give you 500K right now. No questions asked.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this. We're done.
Does like
You got 10 grand, I could buy a senator.
everybody do that? Does BlackRock do that?
It doesn't matter who wins.
You're so right.
They're in my pocket at this point.
Here's Serge Varley on how good war is for BlackRock's business.
Do you have any thoughts on the Ukraine-Russia war?
Yeah, I mean, I do have thoughts.
What are they?
Ukraine is good for business. You know that, right? I'll give an example. Russia blows up Ukraine's grain silos. Price of wheat's gonna go mad up. Ukrainian economy is tied very largely to the wheat market, global wheat market. Prices of bread, literally everything it goes up and down. This is fantastic if you're trading. Volatility creates opportunity to make profit. War is real good for business.
War is good for
Goes
business.
wrong, right?
BlackRock manages 20 trillion. It's incomprehensible numbers.
BlackRock Serge Varley says
Manages $20 trillion.
all of this is above a normal person's understanding.
You're like an undercover reporter. I don't know. Normal people don't give a shit. This is beyond them.
This is beyond them.
The whole thing of like domination from a concept is it's so interesting.
Hi, I'm James O'Keefe with OMG News. Here we are with our latest story, this time.
Okay, so we don't got to go into that whole thing there. But yeah. Pretty much the BlackRock recruiter got caught out there telling all the information. Military industrial complex. COVID wasn't just shut down, it was a reset. Yes, most definitely. Vanguard takes all the pensioners' monies and invests in military complex. That's right. Oh, put it down. All right, let me get back to this documentary here. But yeah, so BlackRock pretty much is the main investor in a lot of the big world events that happen. So like I said, they're a big investor in the war happening right now. And they're pretty much making buku dollars off of this. But the investment for this is not just we're just making a whole bunch of money. The investment is to go into what we're talking about here, again, in this documentary, to invest in the one world currency system. That's why the recruiter was even talking about it's so fascinating about this world domination that they're invested in right now. He didn't understand why they're so invested in the world domination and the one world bank currency and everything like that. He doesn't understand that right now, but he's not meant to either.
Elements of social control, what he calls weaponized deception.
We see techniques of shock and awe being applied through the lockdowns, techniques of isolation, making reality seem strange and threatening. All of this helps to depattern the mind. These are all well-known military tactics.
So, similar to what you just said right there, right? Military industry complex. COVID wasn't just a shutdown; it was a reset. So they pretty much were programming our minds to already understand and comprehend what it feels like to just be, stuck inside, or even how it went to the extreme extent is having curfews, right? So people, or not even curfews, people weren't allowed to go certain places without their masks. They weren't allowed to go in certain places, period. You know what I mean? They weren't allowed to go outside for a while. They weren't even allowing people outside like that. Until they were like, all right, now you can just wear your mask. And then it started to feel like, even though they were giving compensation to you, that was the only reason they were doing that was because it was part of the beta testing of, okay, they're compliant to our rules, so we'll give them compensation for it. So remember when we got the extra $600 for the unemployment and shit like that, the PPP loans, and everybody took advantage of that. They started to give people compensations. Yes, some people went to jail with that stupid shit, but it was part of the beta testing of, okay, they abide by the rules. Let's give them compensation for that.
Look them in the eyes and tell them you're doing all you can to stop the spread of COVID-19. Stay home, protect the NHS, save lives.
These are, in fact, very nasty and very vicious techniques which were deployed against the public of multiple countries at once. These are forms of serious psychological abuse. I think once the public starts to understand that, there's going to be a very severe pushback against everything that's happened.
The general population cannot fathom the psychopathy of the vision that they're facing. So they can't fathom that a group of people would organize and engineer this kind of mass atrocity to get where they want to go.
Be aware then of the World Health Organization, the UN's most powerful agency. Since COVID, the WHO has sought to increase that power to unprecedented levels through amendments to its pandemic treaty and the international health regulations. A key driver is its One Health initiative.
One Health is a concept that was created to enable the WHO, with these documents, to take over jurisdiction of everything in the world by saying that climate change, animals, plants, water systems, ecosystems are all central to health.
That places the Director General in a key position to influence world events. Another potential conflict of interests given the WHO's financial backing, particularly from the pharmaceutical sector. Its accounts for 2022 show that an eye-watering 84%, or $3.656 billion of income, came from voluntary donations. The top four sources of these donations included the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Gavi, a public-private vaccine alliance also heavily supported by Gates.
People see the WHO as a benign organization, and there are still areas where the WHO does useful stuff. But the biggest focus now is purely on a tiny disease burden where investors can extract a large amount of wealth. This has shifted the WHO's focus very much to this emergency agenda, which is very false. Pandemics are very rare events.
This is why we now have a WHO that promotes vaccines all the time, because that's what the money is coming in to support.
And didn't I say that originally? I said, yo, it's not a coincidence that the same exact guy that has the most money invested in these fucking vaccines would be the guy that invested in the creation of COVID-19 itself, right? And what did we have? Fucking documents of this fool actually discussing how to develop a world pandemic disease with Epstein. Hook, line, and caught in 4K. Caught in 4K, Bill Gates. and still trying to talk his way around this one. To the point now where they really scrambling and scraping this. All right, we got to let out the alien files. We got to start war. We got to shut these. We got these Epstein files. Like too much. And in Israel now, them put out a tape of Cash Patel dancing around, looking all feminine and whatnot. They said we about to let out some shit. We about to let out some shit. But again, it began with the release and the disclosure of everything now, right? So COVID-19, as we know, was a man-made disease. We know it was a man-made disease. And now we know who was behind the man-made disease.
So instead of being a World Health Organization, we have a World Vaccine Organization, and that seems to be the only thing they're touting.
What's in the treaty has got nothing to do with health. It's a business deal focused on the most profitable business imaginable, pandemic profiteering.
The other part of it, they're setting up a huge surveillance network. We're talking about $31 billion a year. They have to surveil for variants of viruses, and they will find them. They just have to decide there's a threat, not even a real harm.
Experts are preparing for what is known as Disease X, or the next pandemic virus.
They're creating a supranational, self-perpetuating pandemic industry.
The latest scare is monkeypox, renamed Mpox, a disease highly unlikely to affect the general population. Nevertheless, the WHO has acted.
The emergency committee met and advised me that, in its view, the situation constitutes a public health emergency of international concern.
If you get to declare the emergency and then profit from it, there's a big problem, isn't there?
It's essentially a build-out of big pharma, and the WHO is essentially looking to be their marketing and distribution arm worldwide.
WHO! The people say no! WHO! The people say no!
We're fighting for really the right to own our own lives. We're fighting for that freedom versus sort of corporate authoritarian structure or medical fascist structure, which is what is clearly interests are trying to impose on us.
Changes to the WHO's regulations are expected to be voted through in the coming months. As we speak, the UK government is fully behind them. Meanwhile, in common with many other global institutions, the WHO tries to silence criticism and dissent, branding it misinformation. The science, it says, is settled.
Digital platforms are being misused to subvert science and spread disinformation and hate to billions of people. This clear and present global threat demands clear and coordinated global action.
I have a little rule of thumb for diagnosing a centralization scam. If we can detect 1, a propagandized global crisis, 2, admitting only global solutions, and 3, with dissenting voices viciously silenced, then we know with absolute certainty that we are dealing with a scam.
Control, dictate, eliminate debate, the hallmarks of a totalitarian regime. And nowhere is the cold ambition of corporate dominance more evident than with the World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab founded the WEF in 1971. His mentor was Henry Kissinger, statesman, political shaper, and close confidant of the Rockefellers. The organization now employs 800 people and has programs in business, academia, and in training future global leaders. It's far more than its famous annual meeting in Davos.
Over the last 50 years, the World Economic Forum has blossomed into an enormously influential organization with all of the major corporations as stakeholders or trustees and all funding the World Economic Forum to ultimately fund the UN World Government Plans and Agenda 2030.
Klaus Schwab is the public face of stakeholder capitalism. a planned system of central ownership and control
That's only 4 years from now, y'all.
that has little to do with democratic process and is uncomfortably close to communism. It's a partnership between global corporations, governments, and what Schwab refers to as civil society, NGOs, and so-called think tanks. The agenda is driven by finance, which gives the unelected and unaccountable oligarchs huge influence, if not control, over policy. The UK's Prime Minister, himself a one-time member of the Trilateral Commission, has already declared his interest.
You have to choose now between Davos or Westminster.
Davos.
Why?
Because Westminster is too constrained. And, you know, it's closed and we're not having meaning. Once you get out of Westminster, whether it's Davos or anywhere else, you actually engage with people that you can see working with in the future. Westminster is just a tribal shouting place.
So crazy how he's even saying that, right? He'd rather choose Davos still, right? Imagine they make this disease where you can no longer even live over here in the United States, right? This disease, say it's just disease X, you want to call it, right? Which ironically, they sounds like some of a Resident Evil already, like Umbrella. Imagine there's a disease, right? Can't live over here no more in the United States. Can't live over there nowhere in Russia. Can't live over there in the Ukraine. Can't live over where certain parts of the world is very infected. But you have to be right here in this smart city. We make it so these people have to be right here in this smart city where we can control the population because they're going to be scared to go outside of this grid or be at risk of being infected. Little things like that you have to pay attention to.
Starmer seems to forget that he is elected by the people, to serve the people through Parliament. That's his democratic duty. And while he refuses to listen to our farmers, he entertains the globalists in Downing Street and publicly doubles down on his philosophy.
I'm determined to deliver growth, create wealth, and put more money in people's pockets. This can only be achieved by working in partnership with leading businesses like BlackRock to capitalise on the UK's position as a world-leading hub for investment.
To underline the influence of non-elected, unaccountable policy drivers, consider this document from 2004. It was commissioned by the UN and produced by financial institutions, including the World Bank. It cited research by the WEF. The result was the emergence of environmental, social, and governance metrics, ESGs.
The ESG is an attempt to turn financial power into governance without going through the democratic process, without the normal process of making law.
ESGs allow major asset management companies such as BlackRock to impose ideologies on businesses and consumers across the world through their investment strategies. BlackRock's billionaire chairman and CEO, Larry Fink, also a board member of the WEF, remember, is clear.
You have to force behaviors. If you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted.
Now we get ethics, green ethics, racial ethics, gender ethics, driving corporate.
You have to force behavior is the craziest thing I done heard in a while.
Decisions about who may have money, what they may use their money for, and how they're going to behave in society and what they're going to do with it. This is a new form of political power that isn't accountable, isn't transparent, and it isn't democratic.
We, the public, are being manipulated. Our lifestyles, our culture, and our future, be it through forced woke ideologies, intrusive technologies, so-called pandemics, censorship, or information which is too often propaganda. Your compliance is vital to the agenda. To impose global solutions, the leadership needs you to believe in global problems.
Climate change is here, it is terrifying, and it is just the beginning. The era of global warming has ended, the era of global boiling has arrived.
This stuff is so fantastically stupid. It's hard to believe that they're doing it. There is no climate emergency. That is a total scam. If they came out and said, hey, we want to destroy your economy, we want to destroy the middle class of your country, and then ultimately we want to make you a slave to a one world government, it just wouldn't be as appealing as saying we're trying to save the planet for future generations.
"2024, with the hottest day on record and the hottest months on record, this is almost certain to be the hottest year on record. And the masterclass in climate destruction."
Statements such as that are amplified by emotional footage from all over the world. But is any of it true?
I do not think there's a climate crisis, and I base that on all the evidence and the climate data sets that we build to answer questions just like that. We actually use satellites to monitor the global temperature, the true global temperature of the atmosphere. And we find there is a rise. It's about 1.5 degrees per century, which is certainly something that's manageable and the Earth has seen before. Compared to the 19th century, which was about the coolest century in the past 10,000 years, we're warmer. But we're about the same as we were 1,000 years ago, and certainly cooler than we were about 5,000 to 8,000 years ago.
John Christie is a highly regarded climate scientist who developed the measurement of accurate temperature records using satellites. His evidence is critically inconvenient to the
In other words, what he was saying is there is no global warming.
Climate change industry.
I'm not popular in most of the climate community, that's for sure, because much of the climate community depends on climate model results. Tens and hundreds of millions of dollars have gone into that industry of climate modeling, and I show, well, you folks have failed. But yet they prop up the entire political world that tends to support this. In 2017, I came to work and there were 7 bullet holes in our office suite. And so some people are pretty upset that the evidence that we build and show that can stand the test of time and can stand up to cross-examination is just not going along with their issues and their desires.
So let's consider these statistics on the Earth's atmosphere. 78% is nitrogen, 21% oxygen, other gases make up less than 1%, and carbon dioxide accounts for a mere 0.04%, the majority of which is natural. Can man-made CO2 really be a problem?
Roy Spencer and I are going on the assumption that all the warming that you see is due to carbon dioxide emissions. And so we find that that's a pretty modest warming. But see, that's a big assumption. Mother Nature is able to warm up the planet without extra CO2. And so we are just saying the worst case scenario is this warming of about 1.5 degrees. And that's certainly not a catastrophe at all.
On the contrary, carbon dioxide is vital for the world's survival. The greater the concentration, the better plants grow. In fact, according to NASA figures, the world has become 14% greener in the last 40 years.
During the last cool period before industrialization, let's say 200 years ago or so, it was below 300 parts per million. And during the ice ages, it was even lower. And that's a dangerous level because...
I love how they gassed it up just to say, these people are lying to you. There is no global warming.
Ants struggle to survive when the CO2 is at a low level. And so the biosphere becomes less diverse and less available to support the animal life. So low CO2 is not good for the planet as a whole.
Where is the logic then behind the UK's decision to spend £22 billion on facilities to capture carbon? The greatest controversy of all revolves around readings from ice cores. CO2 levels can be measured in bubbles of air trapped in ice thousands of years ago. By aligning this to temperatures, scientists have argued that carbon dioxide is the cause of global warming. However, closer inspection leads to the opposite conclusion.
Once the temperature starts to rise, you will see the carbon dioxide rise about 500 to 1,000 years after. So the CO2 actually lags the temperature changes.
But what of the extreme weather events, which are increasing and driven by climate change, according to everyone from the top of the United Nations down? Professor Christie says there is no data to support those claims.
And what we find is that virtually every one of these claims is false. The extremes are not increasing. Hurricanes are not increasing in intensity or frequency. Same with tornadoes or thunderstorms or floods or droughts. It's just going along like it always has with a natural variability.
Why aren't we looking at the surface data sets that are constantly adjusted upwards? Why aren't we looking at the 40.3 record at Conisbee, which the Met Office is very proud of, on July the 19th in 2022? And when we did a freedom of information request at the Daily Sceptic, we found that there were 3 Typhoon jets landing on a runway next to the measuring device, because Conisbee, as they call it, is actually RAF Conisbee. It's a military airport. The temperature lasted for 60 seconds. Sticking a thermometer up the backside of a jet aircraft is not probably scientifically the best place that you can sort of determine temperature measurement, particularly when you then morph it into a global database, which the Met Office has, and then tell dear old Antonio Gutierrez that the globe is boiling. The whole thing is junk.
How we came to the point where we think that we're going to prevent bad weather from happening by eliminating fossil fuels is just about the most nonsensical, illogical thing that I can imagine. And the whole world is caught up in this nonsense.
So how did the carbon story take hold? Meet the man who invented climate change, according to The Telegraph. His name? Maurice Strong, an oil tycoon, a Rockefeller associate, and a man with an extraordinary talent for moving between high finance, politics, and the United Nations. Strong was a member of the highly influential Club of Rome, an institution formed in 1968 at a Rockefeller property on Lake Como in Italy. A group of scientists, academics, and industrialists discussed what they saw as an urgent crisis: the impact of human activity on the planet.
I don't think we can sustain current growth trends much beyond, say, the lives of children who are being born today.
To prove the thesis, they commissioned computer modeling at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. This research laid the foundations for an agenda that's persisted for over 50 years.
Cut use of autos, use less electric power, have fewer children, limit growth.
All of this was fueling this ideology that there's too many people on the planet, there's not enough resources.
And remember, we went over the Georgia Guidestones, keep humanity under 500 million. And then you hear this?
This research laid the foundations for an agenda that's persisted for over 50 years.
Cut use of autos, use less electric power, have fewer children, limit growth.
All of this was fueling this ideology that there's too many people on the planet, there's not enough resources, and that something has to be done.
The natural world in which man lives and on which he depends is indeed deteriorating, is being destroyed in many instances at a rate that is accelerating and that can only continue to accelerate unless we begin to control the activities that are having this destructive impact.
In 1975, the Club of Rome published a second report, Mankind at the Turning Point. The lead quotation was telling.
The world has cancer, and the cancer is man.
The report concluded,
the solution of these crises can be developed only in a global context with full and explicit recognition of the emerging world system, a new world economic order, and a global resources allocation system.
In other words, technocracy, top-down control of everything, including populations. But if that was the solution, a worldwide problem was required. Climate change provided the answer, as admitted in a later Club of Rome document.
This is the quote from page 115. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. All these dangers are caused by human intervention, and it is only through changed attitudes and behaviour that they can be overcome. The real enemy, then, is humanity itself. It really does look as though they are inventing climate change there.
When technology surpasses man, it will be the end of mankind. Albert Einstein.
They just made it up out of thin air, literally. That nobody really looks at that book and say, well, there you go. It's not, this has nothing to do with science whatsoever. They just made it up.
Interestingly, in 1988, Maurice Strong had been instrumental in establishing the IPCC, the mainly political entity which endorsed a thesis by a small group of scientists that industrial carbon dioxide was driving climate change, and the IPCC has been locked into that theory ever since. Maurice Strong's masterstroke.
I'll say the exact quote too. I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots.
Came in 1992, when as Secretary General of the UN's Earth Summit in Brazil, he saw 179 nations commit to a world action plan. Agenda 21.
We have been the most successful species ever. We are now a species out of control.
Nobody would question the need.
We have been the most successful species ever. Do you hear him? Just again with the hiding in plain sight. We are the most successful species ever. Just told you. He ain't human.
For a cleaner environment and the protection of nature. And Strong's legacy lives on through the Kyoto Protocol, the Paris Accord, the current Agenda 2030, and the worldwide push for carbon net zero. But there are questions on his motives and his connections. He was behind the first financial carbon market and a founding director of the World Economic Forum. Surely a conflict of interests with his involvement in the IPCC. A skeptic might ask why nearly all research grants in almost 40 years have gone on developing IPCC carbon dioxide theories, while anyone who raises questions is ridiculed, cancelled, or has their career stalled.
Funding for someone who wants to determine the natural variability of the climate system as an explanation for what has happened is just not there. I mean, the government is very clear that they want a catastrophic story.
There is no single science paper that proves conclusively that humans control all or most of the global climate. If there was, you wouldn't hear the last of it. Instead, we get this call to authority to the IPCC, the United Nations Panel on Climate Change.
Many more scientists and academics are speaking out against the IPCC. Almost 2,000 have signed a declaration stating that there is no climate emergency, including Nobel Prize winner Professor John Clauser, who wrote,
"The popular narrative about climate change reflects a dangerous corruption of science that threatens the world's economy and the well-being of billions of people."
We need to have a full and honest debate about the science, and it needs to be discussed in Parliament, it needs to be discussed in the media, it needs to be generally discussed, and we need to sort of bring the drains up, if you like, on all of the science to see what is there really a threat.
That debate is highly unlikely because the juggernaut of net zero careers on with trillions at stake. What is certain is that the repercussions will affect the food we eat, ravage our countryside, and have a disastrous impact on our energy supply.
If you cannot set a credible course for net zero, with 2025 and 2030 targets covering all your operations, you should not be in business.
Well, net zero is insanity. It's pure insanity. I mean, the idea that you can remove 85% of the world's energy, which comes from hydrocarbons, within less than 30 years and replace it with the sunbeams and the breezes, it shows a complete lack of economics, societal effect. It shows a simple lack of the progress that we've made over 300 years.
Nevertheless, net zero is enshrined in UK law, with the government passing the Climate Change Act in 2008. A 100% reduction in emissions by 2050 from 1990 levels was included later in a strategy document. But experts argue that the policy is fatally flawed.
Europe's mad dash towards net zero is effectively economic suicide. Politicians are purposely impoverishing ordinary people, purposely deindustrializing Europe, where companies are forced to move to countries where they have access to cheap energy, whether it's the US who frack and therefore have cheap gas, or whether it's to China, which is still predominantly producing from non-renewable, especially coal. It is literal economic suicide.
China continues to open new coal-fired power stations to drive the factories that manufacture wind turbines and solar panels, which are then sold to the West. As a result, China emits almost 30% of global greenhouse gases, while the UK is responsible for less than 1%. In essence, carbon emissions are merely transferred to another part of the planet. And while China gets richer, UK households face a bleak and expensive future.
What it will effectively do is price ordinary people out of having access to electricity at a time they want and a price they can afford.
The core problem is that neither the infrastructure nor the technology exist to provide a constant supply of electricity.
The proportion of time that solar actually generates electricity is actually 9% in the UK. That means that for 90% of the time, solar doesn't generate the average amount of electricity that its capacity can generate. For onshore wind, it's about 20 to 40%, and for offshore wind, it's about 30 to 50%. So that means, by definition, you will always have periods of time when renewables aren't producing electricity, but there is demand for electricity.
As we'll hear, the net result is that supply will be rationed. Reality, though, seems not to concern the activists.
I look at some of these hysterical youngsters and some of the hysterical oldsters as well, screaming about the climate is collapsing and all that sort of thing. And you think you haven't got a clue what would happen if you removed hydrocarbons. You haven't got a clue. You'd be back in service, like probably your ancestors were. You'd be skivvying on the land, in big houses with warlords, calling themselves aristocracy and all that sort of stuff. You want to go back to that? Fine. Get rid of hydrocarbons.
Many of these apparently grassroots protest groups are backed by organisations such as the Climate Emergency Fund, financed by billionaires like the oil heiress Aileen Getty. And if they claim to be environmentalists, they conveniently ignore the bigger picture. Thousands of wind turbines are disrupting coastal waters, changing habitats, affecting marine life, and killing seabirds. Landscapes are being scarred by the production of lithium for electric car batteries, and by cobalt mines in Africa, where child labour contributes to huge corporate profits. How does the loss of thousands of square miles of farmland to vast solar parks meet the UN's biodiversity goal? And how helpful are wind turbines when they're blotting the landscape visually and through noise pollution, and disrupting wildlife in the air and on the ground? The glorious mountain terrain of southwest Wales is a stark example. It's a landscape breathtaking in its beauty, untainted and largely untouched by humans. A haven for wildlife, a place where life runs its natural course. Yet this is what's planned. Mega turbines designed for offshore, reaching 700 feet.
Let me just say, anywhere that humans do not normally go, or aren't any life or any sign of life of human beings, you should not go there as a human being. I'm just saying, it would be quite wise and quite smart for you to not go there as a human being if you don't see a soul of human being in that particular spot.
Into the air and dwarfing the hilltop forests. Planning permission is being sought for the so-called Bryn Cadwyn Energy Park.
If you put one in the valley floor, it would be standing some 40 metres above the valley floor, so above the horizon. But they're not putting them in the valley floor, they're putting them on the top of the hills. So it'll be standing some 600 odd metres above sea level up there, casting a shadow over our solar panels.
Justin Cotter lives right in the centre of the proposed development. He's fighting to preserve the countryside he loves. And across the mountain, Jason and Josie Barker are equally aggrieved.
It feels very much like it's exploitation, using the climate crisis narrative as its supporting evidence. So it feels like it's being abused in a tremendous way, and there's going to be a lot of destruction done in the name of doing good, which really just seems utterly backwards. And if we really want to protect nature, then some of the best way of doing that would be to leave it well alone, especially in the wilder places, and let it flourish. We certainly found that being here. The more we've lived here, the more we've worked with it and encouraged it, the more it's come back. All of those spruce trees on top there, they will have to go to make way for turbines. All of that. All of this spruce will be gone.
To build a 230-metre turbine in that location, it's going to take some crane to lift the 240-ton nacelle onto the top of the tower, some 180 metres up. So they'd have to stabilise all the ground for the crane, stabilise the ground for the actual turbine, put in a concrete plug basically in the ground of some 1,000 tonne of steel, 4,000 tonne of concrete, just as a base.
They'll need to be lit. It'll take away the dark skies.
It's totally devastating. It would just be catastrophic damage and destruction.
The roadways up through these valleys, they're Welsh valleys, they're all twists and turns. They're going to have to straighten out the valleys. Where you've got steep hills, they're going to have to level out those hills. There's a 200-metre drop into the actual valley itself. So they're going to have to create gradients that machinery carrying 400-tonne loads can actually traverse and get up.
The locals argue that there are much better ways of creating clean energy, such as solar panels on industrial sites. Areas of natural beauty should be respected.
This is about preserving and protecting this sacred land. We need to speak up and protect the environment.
It's just a tremendous amount of damage in the name of saving the planet. It does make you ask the question of what is it we're actually saving if we're paving it over. It doesn't make any sense at all in my head.
The proliferation of turbines and solar panels certainly seems at odds with protecting biodiversity, and experts argue that the economics simply don't add up.
If we are going to go on to full net zero, we not only have to change our electrical system, but we have to change the other 66% or more of the rest of our energy.
I do like how now they're trying to go into the direction of how we can combat this so that they don't have to change things. At the same time, I believe that they're still going to change things. Just putting that part out there.
Energy needs as well. So we need to triple the amount of renewables just to cover our present electricity generation. And then we need to triple again to cover all of the other usages like, transport, space heating, and industry. So it's almost a tenfold increase in the amount of renewable energy that we're producing.
Ralph Ellis has analysed 3 government reports and says all have grossly underestimated costs. 2 of the reports ignore the need for that crucial backup, when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. At present, this is the only such site, Dinorwig in Wales. But going by the government's own figures, Ellis says the equivalent of 2,000 Dinorwigs would be required. The overall cost would run into trillions of pounds.
It's an energy fantasy because none of this has been thought through.
Battery plants are one alternative to back up the national grid, like this one already constructed in Australia. But again, they offer limited supply. We're facing a situation where, if fossil fuels are eliminated, it will be impossible to maintain a constant supply of electricity.
You can't instantly put on new supply, so what you have to do is control demand. And to be honest, they're quite open with this. If you look at the National Grid's latest paper on this, they talk about demand management. And the system is, well, electricity will only be available at a price you can afford when the wind is blowing and when the sun is shining. And when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining and the 1 or 2 hours of battery storage have been used up, the way they will reduce demand is by simply increasing the price of electricity so that demand falls to the available level of supply. Part of the control that the government has, or part of the means by which it can manage the demand, is through the use of smart meters. Effectively, smart meters allow them to do minute-by-minute pricing, which means that as the intermittent renewable production goes up and down, they can effectively change the price at which you can use electricity. So essentially, it's going back to pre-industrial age where...
Exactly, the way there's no way around it.
The weather determines our lifestyles and our energy use.
A government-sponsored report from the UK Fires Organisation agrees that targets will not be met, and therefore electricity usage will have to be cut.
They say we'll have a quarter of the power by 2050, and they say there'll be no travel, there'll be no meat or no beef lamb, there will be restrictions on clothing, and we will live in mud huts. And it's not an exaggeration, they use the word earth. The United Nations use the word bamboo, impacted earth, soil detritus. This is what they're writing.
But what of the claim that renewable energy will be cheaper? Not so, says Derek Bertelsen.
We can also look at the accounts of these renewable energy companies. And what we see if we look at those is that the cost of production is considerably higher than the market price of electricity. And therefore, without these subsidies, these renewable companies would go bust.
Ironically, the anticipated reduction in supply comes at a time when demand is about to skyrocket, with the explosion of surveillance systems and artificial intelligence. BlackRock's Larry Fink predicts that by 2030, data centers will use 30 times more power than a single city.
Where's that power going to come from? Are we going to take it off the grid? What does it mean for elevated energy prices for everybody else if it's that? I think it's going to represent some huge societal questions that we have not addressed. The negative side, forget about the use of it, but just the generation of it is massive power.
If the race to net zero will affect our energy, it could also have a devastating effect on our food, as global policies and the march of corporations accelerate. Farming has been at the heart of our lives for generations. But to the climate change advocates, suddenly it's a threat.
A lot of people have no clue that agriculture contributes about 33% of all the emissions of the world. You just can't continue to both warm the planet while also expecting to feed it. Doesn't work.
One thing John Kerry didn't mention was that farming and agriculture contributes 100% of the food that we need to eat. So that's a little kind of an important detail that he ought to have mentioned. And I think what we're dealing with here is actually a global war on agriculture. I believe they are demolishing our food infrastructure, partly to cause a crisis, right? And I guarantee you, mark my words, we're going to be in a food crisis and they're going to say it's climate change.
I wouldn't say it's about saving the planet, no. I would say it's about land grab and about profiteering and corporatization of our food sector.
It's basically the pharmaceutical industry taking over the food supply. If I can switch everybody from real food to pharma food, then 100% of the agriculture industry can go through my publicly traded stocks, and I have complete control. So the idea is we get rid of farmers, we kill any naturally grown food, and we engineer food in manufacturing plants and laboratories. But I assure you that those guys are not eating this.
Bill Gates is one of the familiar corporate faces, and he's investing heavily in the food revolution under the guise of avoiding climate disaster.
Cows alone account for about 6% of global emissions. So we need to change cows.
And while he talks up the perceived problem, Gates is pouring money into the supposed solution: artificial meat and genetically modified crops. Crucially, anything that is invented or altered can be patented.
The core of his agenda is he wants to do in agriculture and pharmaceuticals, by the way, what he did in the computer world. True power, massive, incalculable wealth comes from owning intellectual property and then monopolizing it. They want to make it so that every single organism that is used for food is ultimately under their control, either through the 3D printing or through this genetic manipulation. So we're moving now very rapidly toward this totally centralized food system where a tiny handful of corporate interests in bed with totalitarian government will dominate the food supply so that there is only a giant public-private partnership with total control of all food, all energy, and I believe water will be next.
While the global machinations continue, thousands of farmers fear for their livelihoods. And the new UK government's first budget has multiplied those fears. By reducing relief on inheritance tax, they're penalising those who would want to pass their farms to sons or daughters. The National Farmers Union described it as
a disastrous budget
for family farms that would
snatch away the next generation's ability to carry on producing British food and see farmers forced to sell land to pay the tax.
For Kelly Seaton, concern goes well beyond her family farm in Cheshire.
It makes me feel incredibly sad that the dairy and meat industry is so vilified. You will never find anything as nutritionally complete as milk and meat. The food that is going to replace milk, meat, and all of the other products that we produce in this country is going to be very nutritionally lacking. They will starve us from nutrients, and then the pharmaceutical companies will probably pick up the slack on that, all of which create a profiteering circle.
No Farmers, No Food was set up to campaign against untenable net zero and climate change policies. Farmers, says Kelly, are being dealt a deeply unfair hand.
When cows are blamed for climate change, it does make you question everything. And I think this is where a lot of farmers are waking up to the fact that there's a lot of lies being told to us. The problem with the current carbon system is that a lot of big corporations are offsetting their carbon. So most dairy producers now especially, but other farmers as well, are having to record their carbon footprint on systems that aren't fit for purpose. They are woo-woo figures pulled from the sky, quite frankly, and then the big corporations are using that data to offset their carbon so that they can look better, again, at the same time as beating us with a stick and saying that we're the ones killing the planet with these girls.
The methane emitted by cows' digestive system is part of the argument against them, but Kelly says that's just hot air.
The grass that they eat would produce the same amount of methane whether they ate it or not. OK, they do speed that up. But the other thing they give us is this, muck, which we put on the fields to fertilise the fields and reduces our reliance on buying in fertiliser.
200 miles to the south, Ed Rhodes farms 188 acres of Devon countryside. He's not part of the No Farmers, No Food movement, but agrees that the whole narrative on cows and climate change is wrong.
As farmers, we recycle carbon all the time. That's what we do. You could almost define farmers as carbon recyclers. We're an organic beef, sheep and vegetable farm. We run a fairly traditional system of rotational farming. We'll have a field which would be growing a brassica crop for 1 year, a non-brassica crop for another year, such as broad beans or sweet corn, and then we have a break for that field, so it goes into a predominantly grass and clover mix. That allows the soil to recover from the work that we've done with it while we've had the vegetables growing. It also allows things like the clover to put nitrogen back into the soil. So the livestock are absolutely essential for grazing that grassland. We also mow it so that the hay, the silage that we take from those fields are fed to the cattle in the winter. The bale I'm sitting on, the bedding that they're standing on, is all mown from very rushy areas on our farm. The animals then dung onto that. We compost that. That gets spread onto the land, primarily where we're growing the vegetables to put the fertility in, and that's what then produces our crops. If you remove livestock from the system, you have no system.
Farmers like Ed Rhodes work with knowledge and passion, but still have to comply with a labyrinth of government rules and regulations, including carbon monitoring. And now land itself is under threat. Corporations such as British Airways are buying farms to plant trees for carbon offsets, while other areas are being declared sites of special scientific interest, restricting or even preventing use for crops and livestock. And then there's the United Nations SDGs.
Goal 15. Protect, restore and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems.
Consequently, rewilding programmes are impacting farmland across the world. In the UK, for example, the government is planning to set apart 1,200 square miles for wildlife habitat by 2042. That's an area almost as large as Cornwall. And in America, dams are being removed and river courses reopened, disrupting water supplies for crops. Goal 13 states,
take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts.
As a result, the Dutch government plans to close 3,000 farms to meet EU emissions targets, drawing widespread protests. And in Denmark, farmers face paying £80 for every cow they own in a world-first tax on meat.
Goal 7. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all.
One result: cultivated land is disappearing under vast solar parks. How does this square with the UN's biodiversity goals or even ending hunger? Maybe they're questions for Ed Miliband, the UK's Secretary of State for Energy Security and Net Zero. He's cleared the way for a huge solar park on prime farmland in East Anglia, an area big enough to site 1,745 football pitches.
It's a crime to take food productive land out for solar panels, which are unrecyclable, potentially not that productive going forward, and not feed the planet. It is absolutely catastrophic. We've gone from being 78% self-sufficient in 1984 to now less than 60% self-sufficient. I think it's about 54%, which I think is set to fall even further this year.
On top of all that, British farmers are being paid not to produce food under schemes like the Sustainable Farming Incentive. Kelly Seaton understands that many farmers accept the money to balance their books, but has this warning.
When you look at how many farms are selling up, how many arable farms are struggling, we're walking into food shortages, and I think we're going to end up eating more processed food, maybe lab-grown meat, and I think that's part of the plan.
The squeeze on farming is self-evident. Our supply of natural food is under very real threat, just as the WEF predicted. Worse than that, Catherine Austin Fitz says that with programmable currency, you wouldn't have a choice.
No one in their right mind would ever eat this stuff. But the reality is, once they have control of your transactions, they can dictate what food you can and cannot buy. If they want you to buy pizza made with insect-based flour, that's what you're going to get.
There's an energy... That made my skin crawl. Just looking at that shit, that made my goddamn skin crawl like a mad.
Crisis, even though there is an abundance of energy, there's a food crisis, even though there's plenty of food to feed the world. There's a water crisis, even though 70% of the Earth's surface is covered with it. There's an air crisis where CO2 is declared the enemy of mankind, even though it's necessary for life to exist on Earth. There's a resource crisis, even though there are abundant resources to support everyone. What's with us here, you know? Who created all these crises? They did it. Just as clear as the nose on my face. It's all been a sham. All the essential things of life, they've been declared to be scarce, because things that are scarce you can control.
The architects of such globalist trajectories, all the Kissingers, Rockefellers, Schwabs, Carneys, Strongs, Carstens, are held out as great intellects. But they are nothing of the sort. We know, both in theory and in practice, that centralization causes nothing but misery, because it destroys the mechanisms of error correction, leading to doubling down on flawed policies.
And yet the creed of global dominance continues apace. Through the WHO's so-called Pandemic Agreement, its One Health Initiative, and ultimately the United Nations Agenda 2030. From medical diktats to gender and racial politics to climate change, the indoctrination runs deep. Local councils have been sucked in by the tentacles of global power, encouraging them to spend vast amounts of time and taxpayers' money on climate schemes, without challenging the rationale.
Local councils have taken these actions because they are part of or lobbied by a network of green organisations throughout the United Kingdom. For example, UK 100, there's also C40 Cities, and there's the Global Covenant of Mayors. And these organisations require local authorities to sign pledges that say they're going to ban cars from streets, we're going to make people vegetarian, and we're going to restrict certain forms of trade faster than is required by national government. They've been able to do this because democratic engagement at the local level is so weak. The voters' decisions are completely outweighed by the influence of the green blob, essentially.
One organisation, Climate Emergency UK, has introduced scorecards, a league table to compare the progress of councils. It brings both pressure and opportunity.
Environmentalism creates the idea that a local councillor is a planet saver. And of course, there are organisations that, like the UK 100, that are going to flatter people in that position. They're going to indulge those people and say how important they are, whereas most of the rest of the public are going to probably see them and say, what the hell are you doing?
Ben Pyle emphasises that such organisations are not grassroots initiatives.
Civil society has been bought, and it's been organised around the interests of its billionaire philanthropists.
Newspapers and television also consistently push the same story.
We've been hearing about the threat of climate change for decades, but now we can't ignore it.
Here, the climate crisis is very real, and it is getting worse.
What mainstream media does in following this narrative is that they exclude vast areas of climate science. They exclude all the skeptical scientists. By the BBC, which has done it for 20 years, saying that you cannot have any other view apart from the settled narrative, is doing an enormous disservice to science.
Journalists and broadcasters are schooled in the carbon doctrine by organisations such as the Carbon Literacy Project, which claims to have trained 1,000 BBC employees. Meanwhile, Sky joined forces with the psychologists of the Behavioural Insights team to produce this initiative: How the Power of Television Can Nudge Viewers to Decarbonise Their Lifestyles. The recommendations included:
give green content more screen time, more salience in plots and scenes. Use kids' content to encourage positive environmental behaviours amongst children and their parents.
How then can we possibly expect impartiality in reporting? Rather, we're served with propaganda, statements that nobody seems willing or able to question.
It is unequivocal that human activities are responsible for climate change.
I can take current media and almost any climate story I can write, I think, a very effective counter. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. This is endemic to a media that is ill-informed and has an agenda. The agenda is to promote alarm and induce governments to decarbonize. There's an organization called Covering Climate Now, which is a nonprofit membership organization. Their mission is to promote the narrative. They will not allow anything to be broadcast or written that is counter to the narrative.
Among the 500 plus media partners on the Covering Climate Now website are Reuters, Bloomberg, ABC, CBS, MSNBC, NBC, Channel 4 News, The Guardian, The Daily Mirror and The Lancet, as well as several British universities. Funders of Covering Climate Now have included the Rockefeller Family Fund, the Rockefeller Family and Associates, and the One Earth Fund.
It's true that the mainstream media only report one side of the story and that most of them are in the pocket of the powerful people who are trying to implement these changes. I don't question that at all. But it's also true that people are listening to them less and less and reading them less and less. We see independent media people with much larger audiences than mainstream papers. And I think that phenomenon will gather pace now.
That rise in independent voices has seen institutions like the UN, the WEF, big tech companies, and broadcasters like the BBC wage war on what they call mis, dis, and malinformation. They don't appreciate views they can't control.
The fight for truth is on.
A partisan media, obsessed local councils, and then there are the universities, which should be the first and last bastions of objective research and open debate. But here too is a story of outside pressure.
With the drop in government funding, the shortfall has been made up from other sources, and those tend to be NGOs, private organisations. For example, the Gates Foundation and the Wellcome Trust. Invariably, money from private organisations will come with vested interests.
These vested interests, according to Professor Moss, drive university teaching towards business goals and ideologies at the expense of critical thinking and levels of academic achievement. One new initiative is the European Network on Climate and Health Education, led by Glasgow University. Medical students have been trained to accept that climate science is an established fact.
Increasingly, climate change is harming people's health. You could say it's the largest health emergency of our time, and I do need to be ready to help tackle this challenge.
Can the outcomes really be free of prejudice when the backers include the WHO and major pharmaceutical companies?
This new collaboration will help train the next generation of medics with the skills they need to treat the health impacts of climate change and deliver more sustainable healthcare.
That's why health leaders from across the public and private sectors are coming together to support this transform.
This nigga got a head. This nigga had a cranium. Don't he look reptilian? Look at his eyes. Look at damn near shape-shifting right in front of us on the camera. I saw the eyes slit at the last second, and I was like, hold on. I know I ain't bugging.
Major pharmaceutical companies.
This new collaboration will help train the next generation of medics with the skills they need to treat
He literally shapeshifted in the fucking commercial.
the health impacts of climate change and deliver
Look at his skin changing. I'm literally looking at it.
more sustainable healthcare.
Look at how red he getting. Bro, about to turn in the middle of the goddamn commercial. That's crazy work right there. So I was like, the nigga cranium. I was like, yo, what is going on with his head right now? That nigga was shape-shifting in the middle of the commercial. That's crazy.
That's why health leaders from across the public and private sectors are coming together to support this transformative new network.
Academics, right from the beginning now, are socialized to orientate their research towards the money. So this, I think, is quite damaging when it comes to fearlessly pursuing the truth wherever it may lead. That doesn't really happen anymore in academia. It's more about pursuing the money wherever that might lead.
It makes me feel distraught. It makes me feel that the whole purpose of university learning has been subverted.
The influence and ambition of big business, the mission creep of so-called woke thinking, the cancel culture, the suppression and smearing of those who dare to question. Shockingly, the conditioning starts in the youngest of minds.
Think about how many people you done heard got silenced just even talking about certain shit, talking about Israel, talking about mental health and things like that, and certain truths, UFO scientists, certain doctors, you name it. Everybody that has been trying to come out and talk about something has started to just come up missing.
All aboard for global goals.
This year, Thomas and his friends have teamed up with the United Nations.
The world of young children is supposed to be one of innocence and joy, but it's been permeated by the global ideologies of the United Nations.
If you go to goal number 4, it deals exclusively with education. And when you think education, recognize they're talking about indoctrination.
The Sustainable Development Goals.
Under the surface of it all is this effort to bring all the children of the world into this one world globalist system. And what's so remarkable about this to me is that it's not even hidden anymore.
Take part in the global movement
To save our world from being destroyed.
How will you fight climate change?
Try meat-free meals. Reduce your electricity use. Give your clothes a second chance.
And you can never ignore Greta.
The eyes of all future generations are upon you. And if you choose to fail us, I say we will never forgive you.
I don't want you to be hopeful. I want you to panic.
We want action. We want justice. Let's fucking want action. And we want it now.
No more coal, no more oil. Keep your... I want you to feel the fear I feel every day. I want you to act as if the house was on fire, because it is.
This propaganda relentlessly promoting fear in various ways, be it disease, be it climate, I think is having a very damaging impact on young people's mental health.
The disasters that continue increasingly to afflict the natural world have one element that connects them all: the unprecedented increase in the number of human beings on the planet.
We're asking children to believe they are a scourge on the planet. I have a problem with children believing they shouldn't be here from the off. How are we ever going to encourage them to have strong mental health and emotional well-being if they believe that their birth is a disaster for the planet? That's not encouraging them to be productive citizens who are making an active contribution to society if they've got to apologise for their very existence. I think it's very dangerous, and I think we need to reverse that as soon as possible.
The indoctrination of children is further evidenced across their learning. Objectivity and freedom of thought are being stifled by the persistent pushing of agendas.
I undertook a study of secondary school textbooks to see what children are being taught. And what I found was extremely shocking. I found unqualified acceptance of climate change, the wonders of vaccines, GM foods, and very few counter-arguments were presented. If you cannot produce this information, that's in the textbooks, you cannot succeed in the school system. If a student undertaking a geography exam, for example, doesn't talk about man-made climate change, then they're very unlikely to hit the top marks. Is it not surprising that the phrase critical thinking actually only occurs in relation to two subjects? One is art and design, and the other is history. Other than that, it's completely absent from the national curriculum. If we have a dumbed-down syllabus, we're actually stunting children's brain capacity and brain potential.
While parents may not be fully aware of the
Literally dumbing the kids down. Because I remember when they announced that they were going to just eliminate them writing script. I was like, oh, that's the beginning right there of them trying to just completely dumb kids down. And look how they're doing it right now, with just raising them. Even how, like I said before, where the average child right now, the adolescent, is raised with technology and having a tablet in front of them. Think about how the kids are even learning right now from the computers, most of them. We used to have just regular computer. Remember that computer class back in the day where you had to learn how to actually type on the motherfucking computer? Nowadays, you actually learning with the goddamn computer.
issues, many are concerned at the growing trend of gender politics, including transgendering. One former head teacher says his local authority advised teachers not to use the words boy or girl for fear of misgendering anyone.
The Department for Education as well has really subscribed to this kind of woke ideology. So there's almost like brownie points for the more woke you can be.
Why do you have makeup and lipstick and glitter on?
Because I think it looks pretty. You don't think it looks pretty?
What schools have done is employ third-party agencies to deliver material for which the third parties most certainly have a vested interest in. And I wouldn't have a problem if it was...
Nah. Time out on the play. The fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Flag on the play. What the fuck is this?
For the more woke you can be.
What am I reading? That's what I said. Wait. wait. What do you mean? This is a show.
Why do you have makeup and lipstick and glitter on?
Because I think it looks pretty. You don't think it looks pretty?
What schools have done is...
What the fuck did I just witness? Yo, it's getting out of hand.
Employ third-party agencies to deliver material for which the third parties most certainly have a vested interest in. And I wouldn't have a problem if it was I'm there in school to ask children to accept me as I am. That's fine. We all need to be tolerant and liberal in a diverse society. My problem is that what they're actually doing is more a form of evangelism, which is, this is who I am and you might be too.
In my heart, I've always known that I'm a girl, Teddy, not a boy, Teddy. I wish my name was Tilly, not Thomas.
Language carries so many meanings and messages. And if schools are encouraging social transitioning, that's not a neutral act. That's a significantly impactful act.
Dr. Fraser is also highly critical of the World Health Organization's recommendations, suggesting that 4-year-olds should learn about sexual stimulation.
It's harmful. They don't need to know it. And in fact, for those children who are perhaps victims of adult...
4-year-olds should learn... It actually said that in the thing. It said 4-year-olds should learn about early masturbation and sex. What? No, they should not. Whoa, yo, I'm fucked up.
Abusers how will they ever know the difference between what is happening within the home if they're encouraged to also explore that part of themselves within a school curriculum? What do we do with an organisation like the United Nations or the World Health Organization if we take our orders from them about what is suitable education for our child? How do we say, no, we're not doing that, we want a change?
Teachers are sent on courses to embrace the diversity dogmas, and many buy into them. But Fairclough says that those who don't keep quiet for fear of reprisals.
It's a dereliction of duty. It's a dereliction of their legal as well as their moral duty to safeguard children against harm.
I can certainly say I feel very let down by the teaching profession because I am not hearing people speaking out on behalf of the children.
A one-world dictatorial education, a dumbing down in the classroom, fluidity of gender, the impact of technology. Are our children being groomed for a life in the digital prison?
Today, nobody has any idea what to teach young people that will still be relevant in 20 years. As computers become better and better in more and more fields, there is a distinct possibility that computers will outperform us in most tasks and will make humans redundant. And then the big political and economic question of the 21st century will be, what do we need humans for? Or at least, what do we need so many humans for?
Do you have an answer in the book?
At present, the best guess we have is keep them happy with drugs and computer games. But this doesn't sound like a very appealing future.
I guess it doesn't. The thing is, right? Imagine now, I'll use this similar analogy with the disease, right? With the pandemic. Imagine it is like the Matrix. They create a one world currency and a one world government in the grid inside that, and where you can't leave it, right? And on the other side of that, if you do leave it, you have to deal with being with the machines. You have to now deal with AI that now controls their own world, similar to the Matrix.
A chilling forecast, and one which echoes Brave New World, in which the oligarchs did indeed...
You know what the crazier thing is? That ain't so far-fetched now in 2026 now, is it?
...provide drugs and entertainment so that people learn to love their enslavement. Yet there are even darker clouds on the horizon, the spectre of transhumanism.
In a sense, it is that final piece of the puzzle if you want to...
Doesn't this look like what I just said?
You gain total control over everyone and everything, then you actually ultimately need to be able to implant technologies inside human bodies. And that's exactly what's taking place.
Artificial intelligence, the metaverse.
Similar to what you just was talking about, though, Chum, calm down with Cyberpunk.
Near space technologies. And I could go on and on. Synthetic biology. Our life in 10 years from now will be completely different, very much affected. And who masters those technologies in some way will be the master of the world.
These modern technocrats seem wedded to science and technology at the expense of our human spirit and ingenuity. They aspire to a data-driven world which is robotic and predictable in every sense, with no room for creativity or individual choice. But if the goal is, and always was, population reduction, maybe they're right on track.
We feel too afraid to have kids because we feel that we're heading towards civilization breakdown.
People under the age of 35 are more likely to report climate change as a reason not to have children.
I've decided not to have kids to do my part for climate change.
If I don't think the future is worth anything, then I'm not going to have children. If I think it is worth something, I will have children.
I think these ideas have spread like bad viruses, and there's been a lot of investment in promoting some extraordinarily weak ideas. Sitting at the top of all of these very bad ideas is one giant one, which we can call anti-humanism. Transhumanism, the trans phenomenon, net zero, lockdowns, population reduction. All of these ideas are basically the ugly stepchildren of anti-humanism. There are, as I read it, essentially two competing ideas in the world at the moment. One is that humans are the best feature of the observable universe, the only creatures capable of creative thought and generativity and of creating explanations for how reality works, that humans ought to be revered and ought to be cherished, that we should plan for their flourishing, that we should be planning for the flourishing of as many people as possible, that human agency ought to be respected, that civil liberties ought to be respected, and that the imposition of top-down, one-size-fits-all policies on humanity is completely incompatible with that kind of worldview. Set up against them are people who regard humans as the scum on the surface of the little blue dot, people who regard humanity as some kind of blight, people who believe that the earth needs rights to protect it from these horrible humans. And I think it is a deeply sad reflection of the state of our societies that so many people live in the latter camp, but I'm definitely not one of them.
We can all stand up to tyranny. We can and must fight for the things that truly matter. The people we love, the fairness we'd like to see, and the personal freedoms we'd like to experience. We should not be bullied, nor should we accept the influences of those who would split our society, be it by race, by gender, by culture, or anything else we hold dear. And perhaps we should start by limiting our reliance on technology and remembering how creative we can be.
Rest in peace. Hey, that was an amazing doc. Shout out to Oracle Films once again. The Agenda, their vision, your future. Do check them out as well. It's no different than what we talked about with what was going on in Switzerland and the RFID chip that people are implanted with. And they're pretty much just doing beta testing over there to where they're hooked to the grid and the smart city and things like that. That's pretty much what they're trying to get the entire world on right now. The one world system. And we pretty much saw where they could be migrating us to. And I keep trying to not say this name, the land of it wrong. Kazakhstan. I'm gonna say it right. Kazakhstan. Excuse me. Kazakhstan. It's 2:00 in the morning. Pardon me. Kazakhstan and Astana. And let's just to again, before we close things out, what we were talking about earlier, pretty much the cover of the live is the building here. This is where they possibly could be migrating us to. The Palace of Peace and Reconciliation in Astana, Kazakhstan. In Astana, Kazakhstan is a pyramid-shaped building designed by Norman Foster, completed in 2006 as the Center for Religious Understanding. And most people would think that the 200 seats represented the 200 fallen angels who were the originators of the giants, the Nephilim. And of course, different structures around the land tell you different things. This is not an AI image right here. This is real. This is the actual structure inside of it. The 200 seats for the fallen angels. The light that beams down in through inside the pyramid shaped structure here with the all-seeing eye at the top when light shines through it. People are saying, do fallen angels meet here? So I don't think it's going to be a time where they just meet up. I think there's times where they just actually do just show up. You know what I mean? But again, people are saying that this is where they plan to migrate us to this city right here. We invested $50 billion into this city, into the structure of it. It's not an exaggerated number. It's the actual number, $50 billion into the city. So, again, y'all, as I always say, keep your third eye open and your head on the swivel. Fact is never motherfucking fiction. I'm going to get my ass up on out of here. I thank everybody for coming on in. Once again, if you'd like to donate to the podcast, please do. It does go a long way. The Cash App is ChillMurray1, as well as the PayPal G-Class Music Group at gmail.com. I would greatly appreciate it. Shout out to everybody that tuned in. Chum Calm Down, Malcolm Bear, Too Much Reality. What had happened was Swayze World, Dainty Delighted, King Ozma, DJ Beer Gang. Shout out to everybody that tuned in. I greatly appreciate you guys. God bless y'all and love y'all. I'm going to get my cell phone out of here. And we going to ride on out the same way we rode on in. With the intro, baby.
Never heartbreaker, taste love, a heart saver, a heart prayer that awaken his God layer. True art maker, hand solo, no partaker. Walker upon skies, my style, I Darth Vader, my cognac. I sit back and sit that. Family doing good in the present, my gift rap, I'm fine. Staying high for the lows I was used to. Like robbing off a plane, niggas still trying to boost you. High appraisal value when the Jews up and talk. Guaranteed you get the itis on my food for thought. Just digesting the fact now I got fruits of labor. This melanin pomegranate, I'm your newest flavor. Tell my newest hater, stay with the lesser than, I'm due for greater. Breaking down trees is what I used to do for paper. I look around how it's going right now. I gotta look up and think God like wow. Been new, I've always been good finding my way along. And if your misery no company, I'm staying home. Straight chillin', chillin', yeah, straight chillin', yeah. And I've always been good finding my way along. See if your misery no company, I'm staying home. Straight chillin', yeah, straight chillin'. Relax your mind, can I be so
see little shit like that?
Be so clear.
Let's
be so clear.
Further know
Relax your mind,
what it is you really do.
A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit. A bullshit.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.